Long ago, the world was a sanctuary of peace and tranquility. A shepherdess watched over her flock in a field of green. But suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The very sky began to fracture like glass. She looked up, confusion turning to paralyzed horror. A colossal crimson eye ripped through the heavens, gazing down with the intent of absolute doom. From that moment on, the Demon King's legion invaded our realm. To counter the darkness, the divine knights rose, wielding the power of God. Blessed with holy strength, they drove the monstrosities back into the abyss. Music, yet, even in victory, a cursed mist lingered on the battlefield. Those touched by it didn't just perish. They suffered a fate far worse. The survivors mutated, warping into mindless, soul-devouring abominations. One such survivor twisted into a vile, carnivorous plant beast. A sickening crack echoed through the shadows. The remaining survivors began their grotesque transformation into demons. A creature lunged with violent intent, but was instantly silenced. Its severed head hit the earth with a heavy thud. Stepping into the carnage, a knight arrived, though he was too late to save them. This is Kieran, Vice Commander of the 9th Division of the Divine Knights. He gazed with heavy eyes at the slaughtered villagers. Suddenly, a soldier shouted a warning. The crimson moon had risen. A moon of that color is an omen. A calamity-class demon is approaching. Just then, Kieran's ears caught a faint, peculiar sound. It came from a ruined building. "Commander, we must retreat," his subordinate urged. But the crimson radiance began to flood the ruins. The vice commander froze, his eyes widening in sheer disbelief at what he found. Amidst the destruction and death, a human infant lay unharmed. 15 years have passed since that day, leading us to a majestic citadel. Inside the orphanage, children chanted thanks to the knights for their meal, but one boy stepped forward to confront our protagonist, Leica. The white-haired young man stared at his tray in disgust. "Why is my portion nothing but scraps?" His tray held only watery soup, a crust of bread, and a few grains. The other boy feigned ignorance, pretending not to understand the injustice. Our MC scoffed, playing it cool. "Forget it," while the others feasted on a hearty banquet. Leica sat in the shadows, an outcast forced to eat in isolation. He introduced himself, bitterness lacing his thoughts. As a baby, he was the sole survivor of a massacre. Because he survived, and because of the mark on his face, they branded him a monster. Fueled by suspicion, the entire orphanage treated him like a pariah. A cook approached, dumping filth and leftovers into his bowl with a sneer. "Plenty enough food for a beast like you." Cruelty was their coping mechanism. Every child here had lost their kin to the demon scourge. The cook signaled him over, pointing a finger at a weeping newcomer in the corner. "See him? A monster ate his parents." The cook turned his glare on Leica. "It was your kind that did it." The mob mentality took over, glaring daggers at him. They demanded an apology for crimes he didn't commit. Leica tried to defend his humanity. "I am not one of them." But the crying boy screamed, "Give me back my mom, you monster!" Wham! The cook drove a fist into Leica's face, rage blazing in his eyes. The man roared, "Apologize now." Thrown to the cold floor, the white-haired youth had no other option. Humiliated before them all, he apologized for a sin that wasn't his. Later, he scrubbed the floors alone, a hellish routine he'd endured for a decade. He knew the rules. He was a prisoner here until he reached adulthood. However, at 15, the divine selection ritual takes place. Only 5 days remained until the test that would change his fate. Leica reached his breaking point. He would escape this cage. His only path was to become a divine knight, no matter the cost. The day of destiny finally arrived within the sacred chapel. Every 15-year-old with dreams of glory gathered. The high priest commanded the candidates to step forward. The cook sneered from the sidelines, "A monster like you will never be a knight." The holy chalice was unveiled to begin the ritual. The priest declared, "If the liquid turns blue, the heavens have rejected you. But if it glows gold, you shall drink and receive divine power." He warned them gravely, the ceremony happens only once in a lifetime. Choose your vows with your very soul. The first candidate stepped up to the altar. "I swear, I will never flee again." He recounted the horror of a giant serpent devouring his little sister. Tears streaming down his face, the boy roared his vow, "I will slaughter every last monster on this earth." The stone angel seems to gaze into the young man's soul, and suddenly, a blinding golden radiance erupts, flooding the entire orphanage chapel. The high priest trembles in awe, confirming that the boy's prayer has pierced the heavens as the chalice resonates with light. With steel in his eyes, the young candidate downs the sacred sacrament to claim his destiny. Boom! A torrent of golden mana explodes from his core. He gasps, amazed as limitless strength surges through every vein. Leica and the orphans watch in stunned silence as the next challenger vows to become a shield for his newfound family. His noble resolve is instantly acknowledged. The golden aura embraces him, sealing his pact with the divine. One by one, their convictions ring true. The chapel flashes again and again as a new generation of holy knights is born before their eyes. Witnessing their glory, a fire ignites within Leica's heart. He clenches his fists, determined to ascend as a divine paladin today. The priest's voice echoes, calling the next name, and our white-haired protagonist steps into the light. He places his trembling hands before the holy chalice, staring into its depths with unwavering confidence like a star in the night sky. With a radiant smile, he swears to become a blade that protects the weak, offering his pure heart to the heavens. But sudden silence falls. His mind goes blank, and despair claws at his throat as he realizes he has nothing truly noble to sacrifice. His soul holds only one selfish truth, the desperate need to escape this hell and find his own happiness. In that void, he realizes his life has been empty. But a sinister voice whispers in his skull, "Offer up what lies deepest within you." The air turns cold. Instead of gold, a chilling, spectral blue energy begins to leak from his pores. Leica panics. It feels like his very soul is being forcibly ripped from his body by an unseen, malevolent force. Horror strikes the crowd. The holy chalice overflows with a bubbling, vile purple sludge, and the atmosphere instantly turns thick with dread. The high priest recoils in terror. Never in history has the sacred rite produced such a color of malice. Fear twists the elder's face into hatred. He roars at the top of his lungs, declaring the ritual a failure and demanding they flee. "Wait!" Leica cries out in disbelief, reaching forward, unwilling to accept that his ceremony is incomplete. But chaos erupts. One of the newly blessed knights lashes out, ripping his classmate's arm off with inhuman brute force. The orphanage cook points a trembling finger at the priest, then at Leica. "It's him, that cursed child is a monster." Leica stands paralyzed, questioning his own existence, but the mob has made its choice. They will purge the demon right here and now. Killing intent flares as the group charges toward the white-haired boy. Kill the beast in human skin. The corrupted knights encircle him, raising their weapons for the execution. "Stop!" the priest screams, realizing the truth too late. That power, it was never meant for human vessels. A deafening crack echoes as the very foundation of the chapel begins to shatter beneath their feet. Leica watches in horror as one of the attackers convulses, his form twisting into something straight out of a nightmare. The grotesque metamorphosis completes. The boy is gone, replaced by a towering behemoth with crimson eyes that smashes the floor to smithereens. The priest freezes, his faith shattered, while the cook shrieks, "Demon!" just before the beast lunges. The abomination pauses, staring at its clawed hands, struggling to comprehend the monster it has become. The victim's severed limb turns to ash, while the priest screams for a retreat. The beast snatches a fleeing child with terrifying speed. There is no mercy. The monster crushes the poor, defenseless boy in its grip. The nightmare spreads. Another blessed youth begins the grotesque transformation into a creature of darkness. Leica, battered and bleeding, looks up as debris rains down, finally realizing that these blessings were curses all along. He is frozen in shock at the chaos, but suddenly, the first successful knight leaps in front of him, acting as a human shield. He remembers his oath. He swore he would never run away, that he would protect his family until the bitter end. But courage is not enough against absolute power. The beast looms over him, seizing the brave boy while Leica can only watch, paralyzed by fear. A sickening crunch echoes through the hall as the creature obliterates the boy in a single, ruthless squeeze. "We have to fight," one survivor screams. The remaining knights unleash their aura, launching a desperate raid boss attack. Leica can't process the slaughter. The creature intercepts a mid-air attack, snatching the boy and tearing him into unrecognizable fragments of gore. The other youths who attempt to fight are brutally wiped out. The survivors tremble, realizing their divine gifts are nothing but a joke to this beast. The creature turns its gaze to the next victim. Its jaw unhinges, revealing a cavernous maw and a vile, pulsating tongue. Death comes instantly. The grotesque appendage shoots out like a spear, aiming straight for our protagonist. The beast's gaze mirrors Leica's sheer terror as the Reaper draws near. He refuses to let his story end in this hellish orphanage. Amidst the chaos, his eyes lock onto the chalice of violet liquid. That mysterious holy vessel is his only lifeline. With adrenaline surging, Leica sprints toward the altar. Tears blur his vision as he screams, willing to pay any price for survival. Hesitation vanishes. He seizes the chalice, the ominous purple elixir bubbling within his grasp. Better to die trying than to perish as prey. He throws his head back and downs the contents in a single breath. Instantly, the volatile fluid courses through his veins like fire. The beast lunges to kill, but a miracle defies the laws of nature. The monster's strike shatters the earth, but its target has vanished into thin air. From the settling dust, a hand wreathed in violet flame emerges. A cataclysmic shockwave blasts outward, consuming the ruined chapel. The impact flings the beast back as it howls in agony. Leica steps forward, his silhouette altered by flowing, silvery locks. His eyes burn with abyssal violet light, radiating a terrifying new strength. He stares at his own palm, unable to comprehend this divine ascension. Through the shattered fragments of the floor, he catches a glimpse of his otherworldly visage. The boy freezes, questioning if the stranger staring back from the abyss is truly him. An icy chill grips his core, yet limitless power floods his soul. Suddenly, a second abomination charges, its blade arm poised to decapitate. With godlike velocity, he weaves past the strike, but as he closes in, the larger beast ensnares him with a wall of writhing tentacles. He turns the obstacle into a path, sprinting along the tentacles with acrobatic grace. Violet mana condenses around his fist, charging a blow meant to shatter the heavens. He slams a devastating punch into the creature's jaw. A complex magic circle manifests instantly, locking onto the beast's gaping maw. With a roar of "explode," he unleashes the full torrent of his awakened magic. A blinding pillar of violet energy erupts. The blast tears through the monster's insides, obliterating it from within. The pressure is too immense. The beast's head detonates in a gruesome shower of gore. As the colossal corpse crashes down and dissolves into ash, Leica reverts to his human form, a single tear tracing his cheek. He startles at his own reflection, watching the supernatural guise fade away. His hair shortens, and the magic recedes. The aura vanishes completely, leaving him drained. His legs give out, and he collapses into the dust. A lone survivor watches from the shadows, his mind unable to process the impossible victory he just witnessed. Leica gasps, staring at his limb. The arm that was severed moments ago has been perfectly restored. Unbeknownst to him, he had just wielded the legendary power of purification. Suddenly, the heavens part, a colossal greatsword descends, impaling the demon's corpse. A crimson gem glimmers ominously on its hilt. As the survivor whispers that the blade is purging the miasma, a mysterious figure lands atop the hilt. She casually apologizes for her tardiness. Turning her gaze to Leica, she asks if this mere child was the one who felled the beast. The crimson-haired warrior smiles with effortless confidence. Leica freezes, realizing he stands before a legendary divine knight. Her grin widens as she offers the boy high praise for his survival. Perched masterfully upon her blade, she admits that slaughtering such a monster is no small feat. Leica scrambles toward her as she introduces herself. She is Arthur, the supreme commander of the Divine Knights. The boy is left trembling, awestruck by the sheer scale of her weapon and her overwhelming aura. Just then, the rest of the squad arrives. A knight huffs, complaining that their commander abandoned them in her rush. Arthur scoffs that they were simply too slow. Realizing her status, a spark of hope ignites in Leica's mind. If he can win her favor, he can escape this living hell without hesitation. He rushes forward to make his plea. With burning determination, he screams his desire to join the ranks of the knighthood. The white-haired youth bows, begging for a chance. His eyes hold the fire of one ready to rewrite his own destiny. But the moment is shattered. The survivor points a trembling finger at Leica, shrieking for the knights to slay the monster standing among them. Arthur raises a brow at such harsh words against a comrade. Leica stares, blindsided by the sudden betrayal. The boy raves that Leica was the sole survivor of a past tragedy. The knight's expressions darken instantly. He claims Leica transformed without swearing the holy oath, wielding a dark and unknown power. He insists the boy is no longer human. Leica stammers in panic, desperately trying to deny the twisted truth. Ignoring the hysteria, Arthur strides up to the accuser and silences him with a sharp flick to the forehead. The blow looks casual, but the force sends the boy flying like a rag doll. Leica watches, paralyzed by the sheer violence. The youth crashes across the shattered earth, his body broken and refusing to rise from the dust. The commander's strength is absolute, Arthur scoffs, making it clear she has no patience for weak excuses. After all, our main character just saved him from death's door, blood dripping from his nose. The boy grovels on the floor. Terror grips his heart as he begs for mercy. Leica watches the madness unfold, her voice stolen by shock. His mind reels, unable to process the chaos. The crimson-haired commander demands the truth. What did he mean? No vow was made. He stammers out an explanation. The ritual was interrupted by a demon before the sacred oath could be sealed. Yet he screams one undeniable fact. He drank from the chalice, and the power to fight is his. He claims the strength of a knight. But Arthur denies reality without a vow. Such power is a contradiction. A cold sweat betrays her tension. She leans in, demanding to know the price he paid. Her crimson eyes pierce his soul. Who received his pledge? Our hero freezes, denying any dark pact was made. Arthur says nothing. She simply watches him, her silence heavier than any threat. However, this anomaly sparks her interest. Words are useless. She demands to see this power with her own eyes. Panic seizes him. He strains to summon the energy, but the transformation remains dormant under her gaze. Arthur's patience snaps. If he won't transform willingly, she will force evolution through trauma. She seizes the white-haired youth by his scalp without mercy. Confusion clouds his eyes, unaware of the hell awaiting him. With godlike force, she launches him into the heavens. He ascends screaming, a helpless speck against the vast sky. From the earth below, Arthur's command echoes like thunder. Show me your true self. A cruel smile plays on her lips. Fly or die. The blue knight curses her demonic nature, blinded by the sun. Our hero screams, the wind tearing at his voice as he plummets through the air. Gravity claims him, accelerating his fall into a death spiral toward the ground. Death seems certain amidst the clouds. But suddenly, a colossal shadow blocks the sun. A sky monster of nightmare proportions looms before him. Leica stares up, her mind going blank with sheer terror. Arthur blinks. She forgot they were trespassing in the hunting grounds of a sky devourer. The abyss of its maw opens wide. In a single instant, the youth is swallowed whole by the flying whale. The commander watches the carnage, a simple sound of intrigue escaping her lips. The blue knight rushes to save him, but Arthur bars the path. She smiles. This is the crucible he needs. Hatred burns in the knight's eyes. Truly, this woman is a demon in human skin. The beast drifts on, satisfied. But inside the belly of the beast, our hero wakes to a nightmare. He floats in bile, surrounded by the skeletal remains of previous victims. Fury ignites within him. He will not die as food. Then, a chittering sound echoes from the gloom above. Parasitic monsters with razor teeth emerge from the shadows. Hundreds of eyes lock onto him. One lunges, jaws snapping, hungry to devour his flesh without mercy. Time freezes. Memories of the orphanage flood back the cruelty, the pain, the tears of a helpless child. Surrounded by death, he curses them all, the caretakers, the knights, the world that abandoned him. But he is done being a victim. Pure hatred fuels his resolve. He refuses to rot in this hellhole. A shockwave of violet energy erupts from his core with devastating force. The transformation takes hold. Overwhelming power spirals into a vortex, obliterating the parasites instantly. Far below, the knights gaze skyward, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Why risk everything? Arthur answers coldly. She must know if his power is enough to slay a demon king. Suddenly, the sky whale shrieks in pure agony. An X-shaped fissure glows on its belly. Something is carving its way out from the inside. Boom! Our transformed hero explodes from the monster in a shower of gore and glory. The violet aura fades as quickly as it came, and the boy plummets once more toward the earth. The knights stand ready, watching the falling star return to them. The blue-haired knight moved with lightning speed, refusing to let the boy crash against the earth. With a gravity-defying leap, he snatched the youth from midair, cushioning the brutal impact. As boots struck the soil, the knight's first concern was for the boy's safety, but the white-haired youth could only groan, his body still reeling from the shock of the battle. Scanning the boy's form, the knight realized a miracle had occurred. The youth was completely unscathed. His eyes narrowed in disbelief. To single-handedly obliterate such a monstrosity, this child possessed the raw power of a vice commander. Shadows of the past resurfaced. 15 years ago, Kieran was the only soul to stand between a defenseless infant and execution. His face in that memory twisted with desperate concern for the child's cursed fate. Back in the present, the blue-haired savior stood revealed. This was Kieran, the iron-willed commander of the 9th Division. Yet, a dark thought crossed his lips. Perhaps mercy had been a mistake. Perhaps death would have been a kinder fate back then. Before the tension could break, Commander Arthur's voice cut through the air, startling the boy. Her decision was absolute. The Order would take custody of him. Such an unknown, volatile power required close surveillance. But she wasn't finished. Her sharp gaze shifted to the only other survivor from the orphanage ruins. The boy, the very one who had cast accusations earlier, slowly raised his head. Listening to the decree, the warrior offered a grim truth. Humanity could no longer afford the luxury of choice. Time was running out, for the heavens themselves were fracturing like fragile glass. Shards of reality were crumbling away, plunging into an infinite, terrifying abyss. The scene shifted, soaring high above the clouds on a brilliant sunny day. Majestic carriages tore through the sky, drawn by winged steeds of legend. Inside, our exhausted protagonist slept like the dead, finally at peace, until a mysterious voice pulled him from the void. "Are you awake yet?" His eyes fluttered open, only to find the commander's smiling face inches from his own. Disoriented and flustered, he scrambled back, stammering an apology while asking where on earth they were. But a glance out the window froze the blood in his veins. The white-haired youth gasped. They weren't on Earth at all, but sailing through the heavens behind a mythical Pegasus. Arthur offered a casual explanation. Urgency demanded speed. There had been no time for sentimental farewells. The boy murmured about the missed goodbyes, but a new realization dawned. He looked up with a hopeful smile. "Does this mean I am now a knight of the Order?" With a warm, friendly gaze, she gave a simple confirmation. Yes. From this day forward, his life belonged to them. Music. The crimson-haired commander extended her hand, an invitation to a new destiny. Leica blinked, failing to grasp the weight of her words, but she gripped his hand firmly, her eyes piercing his soul. He was an anomaly, a variable, and now he had to prove he was worth the risk. The boy's mind raced. If this path led away from that hellish orphanage, he would walk it without hesitation. A sudden thought struck him. What happened to the orphanage? Kieran's voice was cold and final. The structure was shattered beyond repair and slated for demolition. As for the survivors scattered to the winds, sent to different corners of the realm, Arthur added a grim detail. Most who made the pact were already lost. She paused, watching him closely. Was there anyone you wished to bid farewell? Memories flashed before his eyes, not of love, but of cruelty and pain. His expression hardened into ice. No. He lowered his head, masking the shadows in his eyes. In that pit of despair, there was not a single soul he held dear. Shifting the mood, the boy asked of their destination. The commander pointed toward the horizon, to the gleaming holy capital of Alha. That was where the Order stood guard. For a calamity from the age of myths could strike again at any heartbeat. The youth tilted his head, the term Age of Myths completely foreign to his ears. The red-haired woman gestured to the window, her voice dropping an octave. "Look closely, boy." His eyes went wide with cosmic terror. The very fabric of the sky was cracking like shattered glass, and suspended in that dimensional fracture, a colossal, ancient tome hovered in the void. The pages of history whispered a terrifying tale. Eons ago, a great rift tore the heavens asunder. From that wound in reality poured alien essence and demonic beasts, horrors born from a dimension of madness. Leading this apocalypse was the Demon King, a being of absolute dread, a dark god from beyond the stars. His malevolent corruption spread like a plague, poisoning the very earth to tighten his grip. He birthed avatars, the celestial demons, to weave his nightmare into reality. The Order of Knights fought a desperate war, barely managing to seal the demons away, but the victory was hollow. The continent lay in ruins. Humanity was pushed to the brink, their lands reduced to a fraction of their former glory. Back in the carriage, Arthur's voice turned grave. Even now, the destination of that sky rift remains a terrifying mystery. Her gaze darkened with impending doom. One fact alone was certain: the crack in the world is widening. That fractured sky was a ticking clock, counting down to their extinction. Facing this existential threat, only one shield remains for humanity, the Order of Knights. Hearing the weight of the world placed upon his shoulders, the boy gulped, trembling. Sensing his fear, the commander smiled gently, ruffling his hair to ground him in the moment. She leaned in close, her eyes burning with intensity. "I have high hopes for your power, little one." His face erupted in a flush of red. He stammered, hardly daring to believe that someone finally believed in him. She grips his chin firmly, her eyes narrowing as she confirms the overwhelming aura radiating from his very soul. Her gaze sharpens into a piercing stare, and though the boy is bewildered, she speaks his name with absolute certainty. She reveals the truth. She saw the predator's glint in his eyes during his transformation, witnessed his devastating fire attacks, and watched his severed arm regenerate as if by a miracle. The commander concludes her assessment, admitting that in all her years, no power has ever sparked her curiosity quite like this. She admits she is still in the dark about what price he paid for his pact, but for now, she demands that his terrifying potential be harnessed for a righteous cause. The crimson-haired warrior issues a direct challenge, asking him to lend his strength to their order for the salvation of the people. Flustered by her intensity, our main character blushes and accepts the proposal without a single second of hesitation. Seeing his immediate loyalty, the commander offers a satisfied smirk, informs him of his first job, and mercilessly kicks him out of the moving carriage. Desperation seizes the white-haired youth as he screams, plummeting straight toward the unforgiving forest below. He falls with such velocity that he becomes nothing more than a blur, crashing into the earth and erupting a massive cloud of dust upon impact. Sprawled on the ground, Leica groans, bracing himself for the shattering pain of the fall. But suddenly, shock replaces fear. His eyes widen as he realizes he feels no pain at all, and his body feels lighter, more natural than it ever has before. The voice of Arthur echoes in his mind, explaining that those bound by the pact are gifted with superhuman resilience and physical abilities. She continues, warning that their duty goes beyond slaying monsters. His first mission is to exterminate the filth infesting this forest, instructing him to run to the city once the deed is done. Our main character is puzzled, whispering the command, "Clean up the trash," to himself as he tries to decipher the metaphor. Suddenly, the snap of twigs breaks his concentration, and his instincts scream at him to go on high alert. Lurking in the shadows, 3 suspicious men confirm the knight's carriage has vanished, but the leader spots the youth and sneers, wondering who this intruder is. They step out from the cover of the trees, demanding to know if our main character was the source of the commotion. The boy shifts into a combat stance, wary of these strangers, while the bearded man dismisses him as nothing more than an abandoned stray or a worthless orphan. But to these bandits, his background means nothing. As long as he has a pulse, he can be sold into slavery for a handsome price. The realization hits like a lightning bolt. These aren't just travelers. They are bandits, the very trash the commander ordered him to dispose of. The thug demands his surrender, and behind him, the heartbreaking sight of 3 bound and terrified children comes into view. Seeing the fear etched on the children's faces triggers a memory of Leica's own dark past in the orphanage. As the bandit steps forward, our main character roars for them to release the captives immediately. The bandit leader pauses, genuinely surprised by the sheer audacity of this lone child. Mana begins to flare within him as his eyes glow with power. He declares that this is his debut mission, and he intends to end it in a heartbeat. The bandits exchange confused glances, wondering if this brat belongs to the Order of Knights, but our main character simply stares them down with a gaze cold enough to freeze hell. There is not a single trace of fear in his posture, only the calm resolve of a warrior. The bandit leader scoffs, his anger rising. This is his territory, and he refuses to be disrespected by a child, drawing his blade without a second thought. He prepares to cut the white-haired youth down, shouting for his men to swarm the boy and tear him apart. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light tears through the darkness of the forest. The sharp ring of steel on steel echoes through the trees. One thug swings his weapon but strikes only air, confused because our main character has simply vanished from plain sight. The men gasp in horror as they realize the youth is already standing behind them. He gently tells the children, "Everything is okay now," while the criminals spin around, their minds unable to process his godlike speed. Leica steps between the villains and the victims, shielding the kidnapped children and instructing them to stay close behind him. His eyes burn with a terrifying crimson energy as he glares at the bandits, his expression twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. Terror seizes the hearts of the criminals. Despite their numbers, The suffocating pressure of his aura makes them hesitate. The white-haired youth's power is undeniable, forcing one bandit to retreat and engage from a distance with his bow. With a desperate war cry, the archer unleashes an arrow with every ounce of his strength. The projectile screams through the air towards our main character, but he dodges it with insulting ease, causing the archer to shriek in panic as the boy disappears once again. He frantically scans the area for the target, until one of his henchmen points to the opposite side, spotting the boy calmly repositioning. He screams to alert the group, and another criminal raises a heavy, wrist-mounted crossbow, locking onto the target. The man aims at the white-haired boy, screaming for him to die as he triggers the mechanism to fire a massive bolt. The giant arrow flies with lethal force towards Leica, but the youth stands his ground, unfazed and ready to unleash his wrath. His fist becomes engulfed in a volatile, flaming energy, and he slams it into the earth, sending a shockwave of power rippling outward. The raw energy incinerates the arrow instantly, and a tsunami of violet flames surges forward to consume the bandits in an inferno of destruction. There is zero time to evade the ambush. The bandits freeze, paralyzed by the sheer pressure of the boy's awakening. Their eyes widen in disbelief at the spectacle. A volatile purple aura erupts, swallowing the entire clearing in a sea of energy. From the heart of the inferno, a terrifying silhouette rises. The boy's body contorts, undergoing a monstrous metamorphosis. He lands, and the earth cracks under his newfound might. In this ascended form, he stares down the criminals and declares their execution. His presence is suffocating, far more intimidating than before. Eyes glowing with sinister mana, he promises a swift death. A single tear of blood traces a path down his cheek. The bandits scream in terror, calling him a demon from the depths of hell. They realize too late that they are facing an anomaly. Without a second of hesitation, our main character blitzes forward like a lightning bolt. He dismantles the men with godlike speed in the blink of an eye. The battle ends, leaving only dancing purple flames in his wake. The bandits are vaporized in the explosion of power. Standing amidst the destruction, our main character stares into the empty void. He is a figure of absolute dread wreathed in violet fire, but his instincts suddenly scream a warning. The white-haired youth senses the threat is not neutralized yet. His voice booms with commanding authority, ordering everyone to freeze. His command crushes the air in the clearing, because the cowardly bandit leader has snatched one of the children as a human shield. Cold steel presses against the little boy's throat. The criminal screams his ultimatum with trembling lips. If the monster takes one step, the child dies. Pure desperation twists the man's face into a mask of fear. He has witnessed the youth's power and is terrified to his core. The blade bites deeper into the poor hostage's skin. The tension is razor sharp. One wrong move means death. Our main character realizes they are not alone. The situation spirals into chaos. The other two children emerge from the bushes, trembling as they witness the horror. Terrified for their friend, Leica surges forward with blinding speed, trying to close the gap before the bandit can react. But the bandit panics and shoves the knife harder. A thin line of blood appears on the defenseless boy's neck. Leica skids to a halt, his heart racing. Force will not work here. He needs a strategy to save the innocent. Mana gathers in his palm as understanding dawns on him. A risky plan forms in the chaos of his mind. He raises his hands in surrender, promising to hold his ground. He begs for the child's release, but the criminal yells, "Not a chance." The filth refuses, claiming these children are far too valuable as merchandise to let go. The bandit sneers that their parents were already slaughtered by demons, so he is merely salvaging what is left before they meet the same end. With a stomach-turning grin, he spews his vile plan, selling them to rich, twisted nobles who would pay a fortune for such toys. But his disgusting monologue is silenced by a sudden flash of violence. A lash of purple flame materializes and snaps around the bandit's arm. The energy sears his flesh with overwhelming intensity. The criminal shrieks in agony as the magical heat cooks his skin. He cannot comprehend the origin of the attack. The force of the whip yanks him backward with irresistible power. The impact forces him to release his grip on the hostage. Leica stands firm, reminding the trash of his earlier vow. He points out that he kept his word and never took a physical step. The bandit stares in shock. While the white-haired youth analyzes his new ability, even he is surprised. He never expected his aura could manifest as both a sword and a whip. His arsenal is far more versatile than he dared to dream. Knowing this skill is vital, he turns his attention to the survivors. He asks if the little one is injured, but he quickly realizes the children are recoiling from him. His transformed state is the stuff of nightmares. The glowing rage in his eyes softens as he recognizes their terror. Our main character knows he must de-escalate the situation. Overwhelmed by trauma, the rescued boy bursts into tears. The events have shattered the poor child's mind. Standing before this bizarre entity, the boy cannot control his sobbing. He is petrified by the very monster that saved him. Seeing this, the white-haired youth releases his transformation. With a heavy sigh, the demonic aura fades, returning him to his human form. Gently, he places a hand on the boy's head. The youth tries to soothe the trembling soul. He pulls the child into a warm embrace, whispering words of comfort. Leica reveals a gentle, protective side buried beneath his power. But suddenly, the adrenaline crash hits him hard. The children rally together to support their savior. Our main character is dazed, his vision swimming. Confusion washes over him as his strength fails. The children drag him across the ground, screaming desperately for aid. Their voices crack as they beg for a grown-up to help them. Finally, the majestic holy capital of Alha rises in the distance, revealing the grand gate of the Knight's headquarters. High above, Kieran observes the scene with a piercing gaze. He has been waiting for the new recruits to return home. Kieran notices the youth's arrival, but his eyes widen instantly. Something is wrong. His stoic expression shatters into confusion. Instead of a triumphant return, 3 small children are dragging the unconscious protagonist. They huff and puff, struggling to haul him through the gates. The white-haired youth is dead to the world, completely drained after the fierce battle. His mana reserves are totally empty, leaving him paralyzed. Perplexed by the absurd scene, Kieran leaps down to investigate. He approaches the group for answers. A trembling child explains, "He saved us. He brought us home." But the cost of heroism was total collapse. Kieran hoists him up effortlessly, scolding the sleeping boy for burdening the little ones. He tosses the youth over his shoulder like a sack of grain, grinning. He marks it as a demerit, while our main character snores on, blissfully unaware. Carrying the weight of the future on his shoulder, Kieran marches into the headquarters. A new chapter in Leica's destiny begins. Under the harsh lights of the council room, the Night Leaders debate his fate. Judgment Day has arrived for the mysterious recruit. Fran leans in, cooing over his adorable sleeping face. Without hesitation, the captain of Division 2 awards him a perfect score. But our vice captain, Kenneth, scoffs. He slams down a rejection, calling the boy an idiot and his boss far too soft. Griff, captain of the 4th, snorts in disbelief. Passing out from a simple cleanup, to the veteran, it is pathetic. Jack of the 6th Division sighs with disappointment. He expected a monster, not a sleeping child. For now, he chooses to watch and wait. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the noise. Commander Arthur, from her throne, reprimands them for their harsh judgment. The red-haired Empress smiles. She decrees that the boy's trial is far from over. He will be observed. The council agrees. To prove his worth, the youth's next mission must be absolute. The sun rises over the grand headquarters. The Order of Knights stands tall, an imposing fortress of steel and stone. Sunlight glints off a bowl of fresh, rare fruits, a feast prepared for royalty and our hero. Gourmet dishes steam with mouth-watering aromas, a meal fit for a king, served entirely for one boy. The massive table groans under the weight of the banquet. Mountains of meat and rivers of dessert stretch as far as the eye can see. Leica's mouth waters instantly. His eyes sparkle like stars. He realizes with a shock, this is all for him. Never in his life has he seen such abundance. Without a second thought, the white-haired youth attacks the food. He devours it like a starving beast. As he chokes down the feast, a gentle hand offers a glass of water. Startled, the protagonist nearly chokes. It is Fran, smiling at him with the warmth of a guardian angel. The fearsome captain of Division 2 watches him with nothing but kindness. He snatches the glass. He downs it in a single gulp, quenching a thirst born from battle. She chuckles, telling him to slow down. No one will take this from you. With a shy smile, Leica nods, letting his guard down. Pure joy radiates from his face. This warmth, this kindness, it is a luxury he has never known. This life is a world apart from his past hell. Finally, he can eat in peace. No fighting for scraps. no eating garbage to survive. And best of all, the abuse stops here. The nightmare of the orphanage is finally over. Grateful to the core, he beams with pride in his crisp, new uniform. He has a place to belong, but peace is short-lived. A sharp voice cuts through the hall, shattering his moment of happiness. Kenneth approaches like a storm cloud. "Are you really Leica?" he demands, his expression deadly serious. His gaze is ice cold, dissecting the rookie. There is zero friendliness in those eyes. Mouthful, our hero nods. He has no idea why this intense stranger is targeting him. Kenneth invades his personal space. He leans in, radiating pure intimidation and pressure. Cheeks stuffed like a chipmunk. The white-haired boy mumbles, confused. "What's your problem?" Kenneth stares down at him with utter disdain. A scoff of pure contempt escapes his lips. His arrogance fills the room. He sneers. "You have the face of a complete moron." Leica fires back instantly, sticking out his tongue, ignoring the taunt. The vice commander turns. "Follow me." He needs to know, is this boy trash or a useful pawn? Outraged, Leica demands an explanation for this rudeness. In response to the outburst, the man finally reveals his identity. "I am Kenneth," he declares, his voice like steel, vice commander of the 2nd Division. His presence was like a mountain heavy, crushing, and utterly terrifying. Leica stammered, repeating the title in confusion, but Kenneth cut him off coldly. "Shut up and follow me." He turned his sharp gaze to Fran, who was still dressed as a maid. "Commander, how long will you play dress-up?" he scoffed. "It's time to move." Fran blinked, caught off guard by the sudden command. She tried to say she just needed to finish up, but Kenneth's patience was thin. "There is no time. We leave now." The truth hit Leica like a bolt of lightning. That clumsy maid was a division commander, still reeling from the shock. The trio departed headquarters, venturing into the night. Fran had already donned her Knight Commander uniform, radiating authority. Beside her, Leica trembled, his nerves threatening to consume him. He glanced around frantically, like a lost child. Sensing his anxiety, Fran placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Steady yourself," she soothed. With a warm smile, the commander laid out their simple rule: complete the objective and return alive. "That is an order." Leica nodded, his movements stiff and awkward before her presence. Her kindness threw him off balance. But as Fran marched forward, her voice dropped to a steel-cold, serious tone. She had a critical lesson for the rookie. Yet, in the boy's mind, the image of the maid still lingered. How could she hold such rank? Even now, she seemed too gentle to be a warrior of legend. "Target zone ahead," Kenneth announced grimly. The commander stopped, turning to ensure her words sank in. Clarity was the difference between life and death. Kenneth spoke up. "A demonic beast breached the capital this morning, and we are the extermination squad." The vice commander locked eyes with the white-haired boy. "Consider this your crucible. Rookie, show us what you can do," Fran added. "The other commanders are watching your progress." This wasn't just a mission. It was a test of his very worthiness. "Evaluation," Leica gasped. Panic clawed at his throat as he clutched his head in despair. He couldn't fail here. He refused to lose his second chance at life. Seeing his terror, Fran ruffled his hair with a gentle smile. "Do not fear," she said softly. "I have high hopes for you, young one." "Even Commander Arthur praised your hidden strength." Leica froze, the words "high hopes" echoing in his ears. Praise was a foreign concept to him, but now a fire of determination ignited within his gaze. Her belief in him became his armor. Puffing out his chest, he declared boldly, "If that is all, consider it done. I'll crush these monsters in a heartbeat." Kenneth sneered. Big words for a brat who needed to be carried just yesterday. Leica stiffened. How did he know about his moment of weakness? The vice commander's voice turned icy. "If you prove useless to the commander, you will be exiled from the order. And looking at your stupid face, that seems inevitable." To Kenneth, Leica's failure was already a written fact. Leica's blood boiled. The audacity of this guy was unbelievable. "What is your problem?" he shouted. "We are the same age. Stop acting like you're some god above me." "Enough!" Fran interjected sharply. The air between the two boys crackled with dangerous tension. She sighed, offering an apologetic smile. "Forgive him. His pact forces him to be brutally honest at all times." "A pact?" Leica paused, the word heavy with implication. He tried to sympathize until the logic clicked. If Kenneth cannot lie, his eyes widened in realization. Wait, so you genuinely think I'm an idiot? Kenneth nodded without a shred of hesitation. Yes. Ignoring the outburst, the knight shifted focus. I heard a rumor. You have yet to forge a pact, correct? His gaze bore into the white-haired youth. Have you sworn your knight's oath? Leica averted his eyes, defensive walls going up. Why was he asking something so personal now? Kenneth's voice took on a dark gravity. A pact is the heart of our power. The greater the sacrifice, the stronger the knight becomes. I knew that, Leica bluffed loudly, but his shocked expression betrayed his complete ignorance. The weight of those words settled in. He had no idea what he was getting into. This business was much more serious than he imagined. Suddenly, steel flashed. Kenneth drew a bizarre weapon, aiming it directly at him. This was no joke. Without a second thought, the knight pressed the cold muzzle against Leica's forehead. Leica froze, death a mere inch away. With eyes devoid of warmth, Kenneth began to preach the cruel reality of the order. The white-haired youth dared not breathe. He listened, etching every word into his soul. Kenneth's voice cuts through the air with a grim revelation. In just 6 months, 1/3 of the recruits have vanished, claimed by the monsters of the forest, or crushed because they broke their sacred oaths. A cold sweat runs down the boy's spine. When did the vice commander get behind him? The man's speed and his chilling, murderous presence are nothing short of terrifying. The realization hits him hard. This place is far more treacherous than it appears. The Order of Knights is a battlefield, not the paradise he had foolishly imagined. Kenneth leans in close, his voice dripping with skepticism, asking if the rookie really thought he could join their ranks without paying a price in blood. The taunt strikes deep, a direct blow to the poor rookie's pride. The white-haired youth falls silent, the pressure suffocating him as nervous sweat beads on his brow. He has no answer to such a brutal question, but before the silence can stretch too long, Commander Fran steps in, her voice booming as she orders Kenneth to stand down. Tension crackles in the air. The commander is clearly displeased with her subordinate's cruelty. While the boy lifts his head, shooting a glare filled with raw defiance at his tormentor, he refuses to be cowed by the vice commander's glare. Our main character steps forward, admitting the harsh truth he hasn't sworn a pact yet, but he isn't backing down. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. A dense purple aura erupts from his body, swirling with untamed power and potential. His hand blazes with intensity as he shoves the vice commander's weapon aside. He declares that the commander took him in regardless, giving him a warm meal and a soft bed for the first time. But more than that, he has finally escaped his personal hell. The boy roars that he doesn't give a damn about oaths, pacts, or formalities. His only goal is survival. He will do anything to protect this precious new life he has grasped. He vows to do whatever it takes to join the Order of Knights as he speaks. The purple aura explodes outward, fueled by pure, unadulterated determination. His eyes shine with a feral light. He screams that he will claw his way into this place with everything he possesses. Even Kenneth is taken aback. The rookie's raw energy is actually forcing back his divine weapon. The vice commander struggles to stabilize his blade, which hums with emerald energy. Seeing the situation spiral, Fran throws herself between them, commanding them to cease hostilities immediately. A grin spreads across her face. She praises the explosive spirit and motivation the two boys are showing on their very first day. However, her expression sharpens. The warm-up is over. The commander warns that from this second on, the real test begins. The three knights stand ready, their colorful auras flaring in the gloom. But they aren't alone. Countless blood-red eyes ignite in the shadows of the dense forest. The commander points skyward, ordering them to channel that aggression into the mission. In a heartbeat, a beast launches itself from the canopy, initiating a surprise ambush. Kenneth intercepts one creature instantly, but chaos erupts as Fran and our main character are forced into the fray. Steel flashes. In the heat of the clash, a monster's tail is severed cleanly, spinning through the air. Our protagonist barely avoids a lethal strike, breathing a heavy sigh of relief as death brushes past him. But his relief is short-lived. His eyes widen in horror at the grotesque sight before him. Vile purple ichor drips from the severed tail in the trees. The substance is highly corrosive. It eats through the thick tree trunk in mere seconds, hissing as it melts the wood like butter. The beast glares down with malice, its tail glowing ominously. Leica shouts a warning about the melting tree, and Kenneth barks back, "Do not let that poison touch your skin." It's a trap. Suddenly, a horde of identical beasts emerges from the darkness, surrounding the youth from every angle. Bam! A tail strikes him squarely. He roars in frustration and pain, caught off guard by the relentless assault. His face twists in pure agony and hatred. As he narrowly twists away from another venomous whip, he grits his teeth. This isn't a fair fight, it's a slaughter. Amidst the absolute chaos, Commander Fran watches the struggle with a satisfied, almost proud smile. With a casual wave, she bids them farewell, declaring that she is leaving the cleanup to the two of them. She deduces that a pack this size must have an alpha nearby. As the white-haired woman dashes off to hunt the leader, Leica screams desperately for her to wait. Left alone, Kenneth draws his dual weapons, his demeanor shifting to pure lethal intent. The vice commander raises his gun, leveling it with a cold stare. Our main character freezes, terror gripping his heart as he the target. Bang! Without a warning word, Kenneth pulls the trigger. The bullet whistles past the rookie's ear, burying itself into a creature lunging from the blind spot. Bullseye. The monster's head bursts like a ripe melon. Its body collapses to the forest floor, lifeless. As the boy struggles to comprehend what just happened, the vice commander lowers his weapon, staring at the rookie in heavy, judging silence after saving his life. His voice is ice cold. If you think this order is a picnic, then sit down and watch the real warriors fight from the sidelines. Those words ignite a fire in the protagonist's gut. Useless a picnic. He refuses to be looked down upon as he seethes. Another beast charges. Rage floods his system, overriding the fear. A surge of potent energy manifests around his hand, crackling with intensity. He will show this arrogant knight his true worth. With a primal scream of fury, he launches himself at the creature. His mana condenses, transforming his hand into a razor-sharp blade of energy. He bellows that he belongs in the Order of Knights. His determination erupts in a shockwave of power, yet Kenneth watches dispassionately, muttering that words are cheap wind. In this world, action is the only currency that holds value. He locks eyes with the boy. If the rookie is serious, he must prove it with blood and steel, not screaming. The vice commander challenges him. "Show me your power, right here, right now." The rookie accepts the challenge, his eyes burning with resolve. Without hesitation, the knight launches into a ferocious charge, weapons drawn. He displays terrifying speed and combat mastery, but Leica refuses to back down. He meets the charge head-on, pouring everything into his assault. His blazing blade shears through the beasts as if they were nothing but air. Beside him, Kenneth unleashes a barrage of emerald energy shots. He carves a path of destruction, obliterating every target with lethal precision. Leica responds with a devastating area of effect blast, wiping out the stragglers. The two warriors, once at odds, now move in a perfect, deadly symphony. Soaring into the air, the white-haired youth descends like a judgment from the heavens. His face is a mask of focus as he executes the creature with a single, flawless strike. In moments, he stands alone amidst a mountain of monster corpses, a testament to his raw power. Though exhaustion pulls at his limbs, his senses remain razor-sharp. Above him, Kenneth dominates the sky, raining down death with his mana bullets. But the camera pans out to reveal the true nightmare the vice commander is facing, a literal ocean of monstrosities. Hundreds of twisted abominations swarm the battlefield, their eyes filled with mindless bloodlust. Witnessing this, our protagonist grits his teeth at the sheer gap in their abilities. Suddenly, two beasts lunge from the shadows, aiming for his blind spot. But fear has no place in his heart. The white-haired youth summons his mana, manifesting a colossal blade of raging hellfire. With a roar that shakes the earth, he swings with every ounce of his soul. He will prove his worth today, or die trying. He fights for those he must protect, but the intensity of his flames is a double-edged sword, rapidly draining his stamina. Kenneth's voice cuts through the chaos, dripping with mockery. "Is this the limit of your potential, boy? If you're useless, get out of the way." The vice commander scoffs. He tosses a recovery capsule, ordering the rookie to hide in the shadows like a coward. The insult strikes a nerve. Leica clenches his jaw, his blood boiling with pure, unadulterated fury. How is the commander still moving? He hasn't broken a sweat. Kenneth reveals the truth. His weapon synthesizes pure mana into ammunition. The youth realizes the truth in those words. The vice commander is bound by a soul pact. He cannot speak falsehoods. Their combat styles are fundamentally different. Efficiency versus raw output. But he cannot mimic that technique. He has only one option left. He will gamble everything, his life, his mana, his pride on a single, cataclysmic blow. Without warning, he rockets into the sky, wrapped in a pillar of overwhelming solar energy. Kenneth watches coldly, assuming the rookie has abandoned reason. He believes the boy lacks the flexibility to survive on this battlefield. He prepares his mental report. The rookie is a failure. He will recommend his dismissal the moment the commander returns. But then, he looks up, and terror strikes. The sky itself is burning as the youth constructs a gargantuan sword of judgment. Even the stoic vice commander is left speechless. The sheer scale of the mana is beyond comprehension. Strategy efficiency, to hell with that. Leica decides to burn his mana reserves to ash and unleash absolute devastation. Below, the monsters freeze, their primal instincts screaming in terror at the impending doom. Kenneth scrambles to escape the blast zone. With a primal scream, the white-haired youth brings the hammer down. The colossus of fire descends like a meteor. It connects with the earth with force enough to shatter the foundation of the world. Boom! An explosion of violet energy swallows the forest. The tectonic plates groan as the ground fractures under the godlike impact. The horde stands no chance. They are vaporized instantly, leaving nothing but drifting ash and silence. From a safe distance, the vice commander stares into the inferno, his composure completely shattered. He's a lunatic, Kenneth thinks. The attack didn't just kill the monsters, it carved a gigantic crater into the very heart of the forest. Collapsed in the dirt, completely drained, our MC manages a weak grin. Did you see that I definitely killed more than you? Surrounded by the destruction he caused, he demands the respect he just earned with blood and fire. But Kenneth isn't smiling. He ignores the boy, his eyes scanning the ruin with deadly seriousness. Hey, Leica calls out, confused. Then, Kenneth sees its strands of vile energy rising from the corpses, being sucked greedily into the earth. The ground begins to convulse. A massive, terrifying pressure begins to build beneath their feet. This wasn't a battle. It was a ritual. A calamity is about to be born. It's a trap run, Kenneth screams, panic cracking his voice. Too late, the earth erupts, sending both warriors flying like ragdolls. The enemy's master plan is revealed powerless and broken. The white-haired youth can only stare into the abyss opening beneath him. Escape is impossible. From the depths of the crater, a nightmare rises, a gargantuan mouth designed to devour the world. This is no ordinary beast. It is the demon commander, the apex predator of this dungeon. Running on pure adrenaline, Leica ignites the last spark of his mana. He blasts himself backward, barely escaping the jaws of death. He lunges forward and catches Kenneth just before the abyss claims him, but as he pulls him up, a chilling realization strikes. The monkeys. They were nothing but a distraction for the true predator. The beast flashes a grotesque, twisted grin. The protagonist scoffs at the creature's arrogance. He had seen through this enemy's scheme from the very beginning. His hand flickers with the last remnants of his power, but the light is fading fast. His mana is completely drained. He has nothing left to challenge a monster of this magnitude. A wave of despair crashes over him. He expended everything in the last clash. Now, standing before this titan, he is utterly defenseless. Suddenly, the beast's maw opens. A foul, slime-covered tongue shoots out like a cannonball. It lunges straight for the two knights, intent on swallowing them whole. There is no time to react. The fleshy whip coils around the boys instantly. The pressure is immense, threatening to crush their very bones. With fury burning in his eyes, our main character roars at the beast, but his physical strength is failing against such overwhelming power. Just as hope seems lost, a shadow falls over them. Something or someone is descending from the sky. A silhouette cuts through the blinding sunlight. The protagonist's eyes widen in absolute shock at the figure descending from the heavens. He can barely process the absurdity of the scene. It is Commander Fran, and she is casually sliding down the monster's tongue like it is a playground slide. She wears a bright, carefree smile, seemingly enjoying the thrill. With a mocking tone, she scolds the behemoth. It is incredibly rude to keep your mouth open like that in front of a lady. The white-haired beauty reaches for her back. In a flash, she draws her peculiar weapon of choice. It is a bizarre hybrid part spear, part giant spoon, but as she wields it, the weapon erupts with a vibrant, powerful pink aura. She channels her energy for a devastating blow. With surgical precision, she drives the weapon straight into the demon's gaping maw. The impact is catastrophic. In a single motion, the creature's foul tongue is sliced cleanly in half. An unholy shriek of pain echoes through the valley. The The severed segment of the tongue flies into the air, taking the two knights with it. Commander Fran watches the chaos from below, completely unfazed. She does not waste a second. She hurls another weapon skyward with terrifying speed. A blade of light tears through the air. At the same moment, the demon's massive true body bursts forth from the earth. The abomination reveals itself a nightmare of flailing arms and twisted flesh, but suddenly, a colossal slash of energy descends from the heavens like divine judgment. The attack hurtles toward the beast with unstoppable momentum. In the blink of an eye, the monster is diced into countless pieces. The two boys are finally released from their slimy prison. The demon's remains rain down, collapsing into a disgusting puddle on the ground. Just like that, the overwhelming threat has been annihilated. The two knights crash to the ground, still glued inside the severed tongue. They groan in discomfort, disgusted by the creature's lingering grip. With a casual stomp, the commander rips the flesh apart. She peels back the slime and finally frees the boys from their humiliating confinement. Beaming with a radiant smile, she praises their performance against the monkeys. She casually apologizes for her tardiness, as if she were late for tea. She explains that her senses picked up the demon's aura nearby. However, she never expected such a cowardly beast to reveal itself in her presence. Covered in slime and exhausted, the two boys just stare at her blankly. They cannot comprehend the sheer absurdity of her words. Noticing their proximity, the white-haired beauty teases them. "Look at you two, becoming best friends faster than I ever imagined." The boys groan in protest. They are still physically stuck together in the most awkward embrace imaginable. Finally, the commander pulls them apart. The young knights scramble to their feet, their faces burning with embarrassment. Now free and shirtless, our protagonist fixes his gaze on Fran. A heavy realization settles in his mind regarding this woman. The commander returns his gaze, a gentle, unbothered smile gracing her lips. She is terrifyingly calm. The boy recalls how she dismantled that titan without even breaking a sweat. He realizes the gap between them is like heaven and earth. The power of a commander is truly a force of nature. Suddenly, the white-haired woman clasps her hands together in prayer. Our main character watches, confused by this sudden shift in demeanor. She explains solemnly that this monster was once human. That is why she offers a prayer for its soul after every victory. The warrior reveals the tragic truth. They were victims of mana overload, twisted by the very energy they sought to control until they became abominations. Hearing the dark history behind the beast, the white-haired youth simply nods. His expression darkens as the gravity of their world weighs upon him. Suddenly, Kenneth interrupts. Something about this doesn't add up, and he intends to get to the bottom of it. He argues that a mana reservoir, let alone a high-tier demon, should not exist this close to the royal capital. Fran agrees. While not impossible, the presence of such a creature here is deeply unsettling. But their conversation is cut short. A small pebble falls from the sky, landing directly at her feet. Her expression shifts from calm to pure terror in an instant. "Run now," she screams. "The nightmare isn't over." Something far worse is descending. The boys freeze, confused by the sudden panic in their invincible commander's voice. They cannot comprehend what could possibly terrify a monster like her. Suddenly, an overwhelming gravity crushes the three of them into the dirt. Not a single muscle can move. The knights struggle against the immense aura pinning them down. They realize instantly this enemy is in a realm of its own. A voice drips with disdain from the shadows, mocking its own creation. The earth screams as a grotesque hand claws its way out, obliterating everything nearby. The trio turns, horror striking their hearts at the nightmare unfolding. A catastrophic threat finally steps into the light. A colossal figure cloaked in darkness emerges, radiating an evil far purer than any demon. The commander freezes, staring at the entity, her mind refusing to accept reality. A flicker of recognition dawns in her trembling eyes, but the entity scoffs, accusing them of slaughtering its beloved child. Its golden eyes burn with an abyss of hatred. It spits out the words "humans," with their two-faced lies, are the filth of this world. "Creation?" Fran roars, her warrior spirit flaring. She grips her spear, demanding the monster's name. But with a mere flick of its finger, the entity smashes them back into the ground. Its voice is calm, yet it carries the weight of a mountain. The gravity intensifies. Agony rips through the knights as they scream. They are helpless against this absolute suppression. Fran cries out in desperation. her body threatening to break under the pressure. The main character watches in despair. The gap in their power levels is simply defying logic. Even the mighty commander is like an ant before a god. Yet, Kenneth refuses to yield. He draws his blade, cursing the abyss. He will not surrender to this monster, but the hooded figure merely chuckles, calling him a petulant child. Snap. With one strike, the vice commander's blade is obliterated, dissolving into ominous red mist. This power, it transcends the laws of nature. The entity declares it is time for a reconstruction. Malevolent crimson mana floods the entire battlefield. The corpses of the fallen demons begin to twitch and writhe. They fuse, twisting into a grotesque new abomination. Smaller slime monsters are absorbed into the mass. Our protagonist trembles, his mind unable to process the nightmare. Paralyzed on the cold ground, he questions reality. The horrific sight leaves him speechless and frozen. His pupils tremble in sheer terror. He has no idea what kind of hell has descended upon them. Suddenly, the earth erupts. The fusion is complete. A monstrosity born from the dead rises to face them. The hooded master observes with twisted curiosity. The beast, its brain pulsing and exposed, locks onto the knights. In a blur of motion, the monster snatches the commander. A vice-like grip crushes her chin with brutal force. The abomination opens its maw, ready to feast on her spiritual energy with its disgusting brain. Tentacles gag Fran's mouth, silencing her screams. She struggles in vain against the brute strength. The monster's skull splits open, rows of razor-sharp fangs glisten, poised to tear her apart without a shred of mercy. The main character lies helpless, forced to watch the execution. He is paralyzed by his own powerlessness. Despair turns to horror. Is this how it ends? Will the noble Commander Fran be slaughtered right before his eyes? Memories flood his mind. Her promise to bring everyone home alive echoes in his ears. He remembers the white-haired woman's faith in his potential. Something inside him snaps. Stop! A primal roar tears from his throat. Dormant power detonates like a supernova from the ground. The hooded entity recoils in shock. The air screams as our main character transcends his limits. Engulfed in a terrifying new transformation, Kenneth's jaw drops, witnessing a miracle he cannot comprehend. The white-haired youth condenses a sphere of violet ruin in his palm. Pure, destructive mana, he unleashes the blast with every ounce of his soul. The beam pierces the heavens, hitting the creature head-on and incinerating it into nothingness. Commander Fran falls free, safe but stunned by the rookie's godlike might. But the cost was high. The boy collapses, gasping for air as the backlash hits. His face twists in extreme agony. With his mana reserve is empty, he reverts to his normal form, completely drained of life force. The Dark Master watches silently, a sinister intrigue taking root. The boy lies immobilized, unable to lift a finger. How? The entity hums. It analyzes the youth, praising him for moving within such a crushing gravity field. He gestures casually, but there is something far more peculiar about you, child. That violet flame he wielded, it does not belong to the laws of this dimension. Fascinated, the monster steps forward. In a blink, he warps directly in front of the youth and grips his face. The protagonist freezes, staring into the eyes of absolute death. The hooded figure gazed deep into the boy's soul, unraveling his secrets. A twisted smile formed as he realized the truth. This child had forged a pact with an outer god. But the amusement was short-lived as he unleashed a crushing pressure. Our main character screamed in agony as his very spirit was compressed by the weight. The entity couldn't fathom it. How could a mere youth offer up such a terrifying sacrifice to the abyss? His sinister grin wavered, replaced by pure shock. The creature's eye widened, trembling at the sheer audacity of the boy's forbidding contract. But in that moment of hesitation, a lance of violet energy erupted. It pierced the mysterious being's chest with the force of a falling star. Caught off guard, the enemy staggered. Our main character emerged from the pressure, white hair dancing in the wind. His eyes burned with rage as he roared, "You talk too much." With a surge of adrenaline, he seized the hooded figure. With a single brutal motion, he tore the enemy asunder. A cataclysmic explosion of purple mana blasted the entity away. The broken body crashed to the earth, silenced by the boy's overwhelming might. As the dust settled, the main character retreated, his breath ragged. The burst of power had drained him completely. His vision faded, and he collapsed face first into the dirt. The commander and vice commander could only watch, gasping for air, unable to comprehend the spectacle. Staring at the fallen forms, Kenneth stammered, Did the rookie actually take that monster down? Commander Fran stood frozen in shock, but before their eyes, the hooded corpse began to crumble, dissolving into nothing more than dust. Driven by suspicion, the white-haired commander marched forward and ripped back the hood of their fallen foe. Her blood ran cold. It wasn't a living being at all. Lying there was a wooden marionette, etched with ancient, forbidden seals. The realization hit her like a truck. The true enemy hadn't even been here. They were pulling the strings from the shadows. Kenneth rushed to our main character's side, calling his name, but the boy remained motionless on the cold ground. Worried, the commander checked his pulse. She let out a sigh of relief. He's alive, she confirmed. It's just severe mana exhaustion. Her gaze hardened as she looked back at the shattered puppet. Whoever made this, they were manufacturing demons with terrifying power. For a human to possess such capability, their mastery over magic was simply godlike. Suddenly, a terrifying possibility crossed her mind. There was only one man capable of this. She whispered the name of the magic ruler, Hanemista. Meanwhile, miles away in the tranquil city of Tempest Ashi, the wind blew gently. The silence of a rustic cottage was broken by the creak of a door. A young girl in a witch's hat peeked in, finding a white-haired man dozing peacefully on the couch. He groaned, shifting under the weight of the book that covered his face, slowly waking from his slumber. The girl scolded him for being lazy again, and he offered a lazy apology without even bothering to sit up. Finally sitting up, he stretched. I had a very fascinating dream, he murmured. His smile was gentle, yet it hid an aura of unfathomable darkness. I found a rare gem, he mused. The girl just rolled her eyes, calling him a hopeless adult. She nagged him again as he reached for his cup, but the white-haired master simply took a sip, savoring the tea with a serene expression. Gazing out the window, he agreed with the girl. Yes, he whispered. The sky is particularly beautiful today. Back in the forest, the atmosphere felt heavy, as if the sky itself was cracking. Kenneth hoisted our main character onto his back, urging him to hold on a little longer. The white-haired youth remained limp, cuts and bruises marring his face, battle scars from his brush with death. In the shadows of his mind, the puppet master replayed the battle. He recalled the boy's forbidden pact and the bubbling, violet chalice of the abyss. The scene shifts to the imposing grand headquarters of the Night Order. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. The commanders were in an uproar over the rookie's alleged contract with an otherworldly god. In a dim underground chamber, heavy gazes fell upon the unconscious boy. He lay helpless while the High Council debated his ultimate fate. Grift, commander of the 4th Division, slammed his fist down. This is heresy. It violates the very foundation of our order. But Jack, vice commander of the 6th, smirked. I disagree. He seems incredibly useful. Did you forget, Jack added, during the last battle, he conjured a divine weapon of massive destruction. Karen stepped in, arguing, we cannot condemn him based on fear alone. However, Gavin shook his head. The risk is too high. We cannot allow uncertain elements within our ranks. The vice commander narrowed his eyes. Beings like him, they peddle nothing but pure chaos. His eyes were filled with suspicion and contempt for the white-haired youth. Watching the heated debate, Commander General Arthur remained stoic, observing in silence. Finally, the red-haired commander cleared her throat, preparing to deliver the verdict. She turned to Fran. You were there. You saw it with your own eyes. Give us your report. Fran hesitated, worry etched on her face. It's true, she began. Against that enemy, neither Kenneth nor I could even move. The white-haired commander added solemnly, if that boy hadn't acted, we would all be corpses right now. However, the commander clapped her hands, silencing the room. There is a massive problem. The boy's transformation. It was completely feral and uncontrolled. Fran stresses the harsh reality the boy is a vessel overflowing with power he cannot contain. Her voice trembles as she addresses the High Council, revealing the fatal flaw every time he unleashes his strength. His body collapses into unconsciousness. Gavin scoffs, his voice cutting like a blade. Can such instability truly be called control? Fran falls silent, crushed by the undeniable truth. Commander Arthur sits upon his throne, absorbing every word with the weight of a judge deciding a fate. The condition is absolute unless he masters his chaotic energy. He has no place in the order. The room grows heavy as the other commanders watch, waiting for the verdict. A silent consensus sweeps through the hall. No one dares to object to the general's assessment. Arthur turns his gaze to the skeptic, demanding to know what proof Gavin requires. The vice commander pauses, his eyes narrowing as he formulates a ruthless plan. His demand drops like a bomb. Leica must conquer the legendary trial of the sheltered flame. Fran and Jack freeze, horror written plainly on their faces. Arthur strikes the gavel of destiny. The trial is approved, effectively sentencing the boy to walk through hell itself. Wearing a chilling smile, the commander orders Jack to restore the boy to full health. Meanwhile, Leica drifts into a deep slumber, unaware of the nightmare awaiting him. But sleep offers no sanctuary. The enemy's voice echoes in the void, taunting him about a forbidden pact with the dark god. The voice screams with malice, revealing the cost of his power, a contract with an otherworldly deity, paid for with a sacrifice beyond imagination. Seething with disgust, the entity spits out the question that haunts him: what kind of monster are you? Leica jolts awake, a scream tearing from his throat as he begs the voices to cease. As his heavy breathing slows, he realizes he's not alone. A man sits quietly reading by his bedside. The black-haired sentinel closes his book, noting that the sleeping beauty has finally returned to the land of the living. He mocks Leica gently, explaining that high-tier healing magic was wasted on someone who slept for days. When the boy panics about the enemy, the man assures him the threat has been neutralized. Suddenly, the usually stoic vice commander stammers, struggling to find the right words. Leica tilts his head in confusion. Finally, the man breaks, admitting he was genuinely terrified the boy would never open his eyes again. Leica blinks, completely blindsided by this unexpected display of concern. He grins, teasing the vice commander about his soft heart. Leica realizes that for all his toughness, this knight is incapable of lying. Kenneth's face flushes red, and he grumbles an incoherent excuse, looking away to hide his embarrassment. Regaining his composure, he bids the boy farewell, but before he can escape, the door is kicked open with a bang. Both of them jump in surprise. Standing in the doorway is none other than Kieran, the fearsome commander of the 9th Division. He offers a hollow apology for the intrusion before dropping the hammer. The council has decided Leica's fate. Leica tenses as Kieran locks eyes with him. The verdict is absolute. He must face the legendary trial of the sheltered flame. The color drains from Kenneth's face, and he shouts in disbelief, unable to comprehend such a cruel order. Leica echoes the word trial, his confusion masking the danger he is in. Kenneth explodes, arguing that sending a rookie is a death sentence. Kieran cuts him off sharply, declaring that he, the administrator, will hear no objections. Innocently, Leica asks if this is just an entrance exam. Kenneth snaps, calling him a fool. This isn't a rookie test. It's the gauntlet used to select a vice commander. Kenneth is trembling with rage. Leica has only just awakened his divine magic. He isn't ready for elite warfare. He screams that this is nothing short of a public execution. Leica falls silent, the gravity of the situation finally sinking in. Kieran steps forward with cold facts. 1/3 of those who fail don't just lose, their minds shatter into madness. And for the rest, a cold demise. There are no second chances in this trial. Kieran offers a final warning, except only if he is ready to die. Kenneth turns to the boy, pleading with his eyes to refuse. Leica sits up, his expression shifting. He admits he's never been good with complicated politics or fear, but with a gentle smile, he declares his truth. This order is the only home he has left. To protect it, he will gladly put his life on the line. 5 days blur by, and the moment of judgment arrives. Kieran stands before him to unveil the rules. The trial has 2 deadly stages. Phase 1 sounds deceptively simple: survival. He must endure for 3 agonizing days. Leica tilts his head, asking what the catch is for the second part. The commander produces a single, ordinary candle. He orders Leica to channel his mana into the wax, and the wick ignites with a mystical glow. Whoosh! The small flame erupts into a roaring inferno, nearly singeing Leica's eyebrows. Kieran reveals the true challenge: Leica must keep this fragile flame alive for the entire 3 days. The realization hits the boy like a physical blow. Kieran's expression darkens as he delivers the final twist, that holy fire acts as a beacon, drawing every monster in the vicinity straight to his throat. Fear flickers in Leica's eyes as he stares into the abyss. The commander offers one last piece of advice: don't die. With the die cast, Leica steps into the darkness. The trial of the sheltered flame has begun. Enveloped by the suffocating abyss, he clutches the solitary flame, his only lifeline against the unknown. Stepping into the cavern's maw, our protagonist moves with the silent precision of a predator. The very air feels heavy, crushed by a suffocating spiritual pressure. Gripping the candle until his knuckles turn white, he forces his way deeper into the void. The white-haired youth senses death lurking in every shadow. Suddenly, the atmosphere crushes his lungs. He gasps, clutching his chest as the invisible weight bears down on him. Realization strikes: this isn't just air. He is drowning in the cavern's overwhelming mana density. Memories surface: this dungeon is a death trap, renowned for a concentration of energy far surpassing any normal hunting ground. Consequently, it is a breeding ground for horrors, teeming with a monstrous population that defies logic. A perfect stage for a hellish trial of survival. The commander's ultimatum echoes in his mind. Two impossible conditions must be met to clear this test. The first command is absolute: endure the darkness and survive for 3 agonizing days, in a labyrinth where beasts spawn like a plague. The second condition becomes clear just as a grotesque nightmare ambushes him from the void. A colossal abomination lunges for the first kill, yet our protagonist stands unwavering, meeting the beast's gaze with cold steel determination. Burning within his eyes is a fighting spirit that refuses to kneel before fear. As the beast bares its fangs, the second rule flashes in his mind: the flame must never die. Extinguishing the light means instant disqualification. The white-haired youth must become the guardian of this fragile ember at all costs. And if the wax melts away completely, his fate is sealed. Weaving through the monster's strike, he coils his muscles for a lethal counter. In a flash, he manifests a cross-shaped blade of pure energy. His violet aura pierces the cavern's gloom with a blinding radiance. With a primal roar, he unleashes his full might. The energy tears through the air, surging toward the aberration with unstoppable momentum. One strike is all it takes. The beast is bisected instantly, its severed remains crashing lifelessly to the cold stone floor. The first obstacle is cleared, but a chilling realization hits him. The candle isn't burning wax, it is devouring his own mana as fuel. Immediately, he drops into a meditative stance, attempting to suppress the flame to preserve his dwindling energy reserves. Eyes shut in deep concentration, he exerts total control, dimming the fire to a mere flicker. The youth presses on, mindful of the bell that will toll in 3 days, a signal whose true meaning remains a terrifying mystery. Ambush. Suddenly, a horde of monstrosities encircles him. A massive predator looms over him, saliva dripping from its jaws in anticipation of the feast. Tension spikes, but the reward keeps him grounded. Victory here guarantees his ascension as an official member of the Order. Failure, however, means becoming food for this swarm. They erupt from the shadows, crawling from the very walls like a living nightmare. The situation spirals into catastrophe as he loses his footing, plunging into a subterranean lake infested with aquatic horrors. Miles away, Kieran and Kenneth monitor the trial through a scrying mirror. The vice commander bows his head, anxiety for the rookie etched on his face. His eyes betray sheer anguish, witnessing what seems to be a hopeless death sentence for the boy. Kieran calculates the odds: 0. This trial is premature, a reckless gambit forced by the commander to silence the dissenting voices within the guild. Chief among the dissenters is Gavin, the 1st Division Vice Commander, whose stern judgment weighs heavily on this test. Watching the watery grave in the mirror, the commander murmurs a contemplation that hangs in the air, yet a spark of intrigue shifts his expression. He reevaluates the rookie, voicing a sudden premonition of success that leaves Kenneth stunned. Back in the abyss, our main character becomes a blur of motion, clashing against the aquatic beast with desperate ferocity. Veins bulge on his forehead, but his resolve is ironclad. He refuses to let this dungeon become his tomb. Clarity cuts through the chaos. Defensive tactics will fail. If he drags this out for 3 days, the sheer numbers will overwhelm him. A risky gambit forms in his mind. His eyes ignite with violent intensity as he pours his mana into the candle, fueling the flame into a raging inferno. He weaponizes the light. The candle transforms into a magical flamethrower, unleashing a torrent of raw power. A blinding supernova floods the tunnel. incinerating everything in its wake. A nearby beast freezes, paralyzed by the sudden annihilation. The brilliant beacon acts as the ultimate taunt, drawing every monster in the cavern toward the searing light. It's a suicide lure. He expands the flame to attract the entire horde, planning to wipe them out in a single, legendary strike. The bait is taken. The Colossi charge, a stampede of death thundering toward the white-haired youth. With a deafening war cry, he detonates his mana. The lead monster takes the blast head-on, vaporizing into dust before the overwhelming force. The white-haired youth stands at the epicenter of the cataclysm, a solitary figure amidst a storm of destruction. A tidal wave of violet energy sweeps through the cavern, engulfing every shadow in mere seconds. The horde is obliterated, reduced to floating ash. As the dust settles, he stands alone within a massive, superheated crater. A confident smirk graces his lips as he asks, "How was that for a demonstration?" Far above, Kenneth is left speechless, while Kieran watches, his eyes narrowed in keen interest. The vice commander muses with a dark curiosity, wondering if the boy truly intends to defeat every obstacle or simply rot in this dungeon. Deep within the abyss, the protagonist stares into the endless void, his body pushed to the absolute limit. Yet, Kieran watches on, a smile of genuine respect forming on his lips. He admits it freely. If the young master survives this hell, he will forge a legend unlike any other. But suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Kieran's expression darkens as he senses a disturbance in the mana. He shoots to his feet, shouting for the test to halt. Something is wrong. Those abominations were never meant to exist here. As the boy collapses into unconsciousness, Kieran stares in disbelief. Meanwhile, Gavin, the architect of this nightmare, watches the feed with a twisted, satisfied grin. Kieran's aura flares with rage. He curses the vice commander for setting such a treacherous death trap. In the darkness of the cave, the panting youth clutches the candle. His lifeline is already burned halfway to nothing. He calculates his survival, reduce the flame, conserve oxygen, and endure for 3 days. But then, a spine-chilling bloodlust washes over him. Instantaneously, a beam of crimson energy tears through the darkness, grazing his face with lethal force. The blast detonates against the cavern wall. The white-haired youth spins around, his senses screaming danger. His eyes widen in pure horror at the anomaly before him. A colossal mechanical limb stomps into the ground, shaking the very earth. From the shadows emerges a nightmare of steel and magic, a 6-armed golem, each limb wielding a blade sharp enough to sever fate itself. The protagonist stares, paralyzed by confusion. "What is that monstrosity?" Kieran roars, recognizing the ancient technology instantly. "A berserk," he gasps. The golem's optical sensor flares, locking onto its prey with cold, mechanical malice. Another beam rips through the air. The youth barely evades death. This is no monster. It is an anti-mage weapon forged by the Order. Kieran snatches the communicator, his voice trembling with fury as he dials Gavin. What is the meaning of this madness? But Gavin only laughs, his tone dripping with mockery. "Relax. It is merely a prototype field test. The forest was available," the vice commander adds nonchalantly. "It is just a coincidence that the boy's cave was in the testing zone." Kieran's knuckles turn white. "Do you truly expect me to believe such a transparent lie?" Gavin's voice drops to a glacial chill. "Do not intervene. A true warrior must endure every injustice, every hardship thrown his way. If he breaks now, he is trash. We have no need for weaklings." Kieran grinds his teeth, forced to swallow his rage. The line goes dead. Gavin hangs up, a sinister smile playing on his lips as the game continues. A knock echoes through the office. Fran glides in, dressed in a maid's uniform, serving tea with perfect elegance. "Why would a division head lower himself to play servant?" Gavin asks, though he hardly seems surprised. "Merely a hobby," she replies. Gavin declines the sugar, sipping the bitter tea with terrifying calmness. "I find myself in excellent spirits today," he remarks. The vice commander agrees, savoring the flavor. Indeed, the tea tastes particularly sweet. His gaze returns to the magic mirror, watching the brutality unfold. The fewer variables we have to worry about, the better. Back in the cavern, a small, one-eyed creature lurks in the shadows, observing the duel of man and machine. The golem unleashes twin beams of destruction. With a legendary reflex, the white-haired youth dances between the lasers. Cornered, he channels his mana. A sphere of violet energy manifests in his palm. With a warrior's roar, he hurls his power at the steel giant. The impact is direct. "How do you like that?" the boy yells, hoping for a victory. But as the smoke clears, despair crashes over him. The golem stands immovable, without a single scratch, emitting a chilling mechanical purr. The protagonist is thunderstruck. Impossible. My magic didn't even leave a mark. The tension suffocates him. The enemy is in a different realm of power, and the candle, his very life force, begins to flicker and die. The robot charges, all 6 swords singing a song of death. "Focus!" the boy screams to his own trembling body. Determination hardens his gaze. He grits his teeth, narrowly dodging another beam that singes his hair. Inside the golem's vision, a red target reticle locks firmly onto the white-haired youth. Extermination is imminent. I cannot waste the flame, he realizes. Fire magic drains him, and against this armor, it is useless. He weaves through the onslaught, his mind racing. What can I do? How do I kill something that cannot bleed? He leaps backward, gasping for air, his stamina gauge flashing red. He is at his absolute limit. The golem towers over him, pausing only to charge its main cannon for the final, obliterating blow. Staring into the barrel of death, the protagonist frantically searches for a weakness. There must be a flaw. Man versus machine. They lock eyes in a silent, deadly standoff amidst the ruins of the cave. But then, silence. The boy frowns, confused. Why has the slaughter suddenly stopped? To verify his risky hypothesis, the white-haired youth sidestepped, and instantly, a lethal beam seared the air, missing him by a mere fraction of an inch. The impact was devastating, kicking up a blinding storm of dust and debris that swallowed the battlefield. In that chaos, the puzzle pieces snapped together. He finally grasped the enemy's algorithm. The construct only fired when it detected kinetic movement. Armed with this knowledge, a reckless plan formed in his mind. He didn't hesitate. He bolted forward with explosive speed. He charged straight down the barrel of the gun to test his insane theory. The golem unleashed a barrage of beams to intercept him, but he didn't falter, preparing to strike while airborne. With a gravity-defying leap, he threw himself sideways, launching a pulse of raw power directly behind him. The mechanical eye tracked the motion instantly, locking onto the decoy energy sphere instead of the boy. His calculation was perfect. The energy ball acted as a magnet for the golem's beam, curving the attack back toward the machine itself. Metal screeched against metal as the robot severed its own limbs. Our hero grinned. His strategy to make the enemy self-destruct had worked like a charm. Seizing the opening, he surged forward with every ounce of strength, roaring for this heap of scrap to finally stay down. His fist connected with the golem's head in a thunderous impact, triggering a massive explosion. Violet energy erupted, shattering the robotic core. With a primal scream, he ripped through the chassis, tearing out handfuls of wires and cables. He gripped the shattered remains of the core, a look of savage victory on his face as he crushed it completely. The golem let out one final, distorted mechanical whine before powering down forever. Amidst the wreckage, our hero stood tall, the fragile candle flame still flickering in his hand. As the construct's body dissolved into particles of light, he stared at the severed cables he had torn loose. Battered, bloody, and exhausted, he simply murmured that it was over, a look of quiet satisfaction crossing his face. But he wasn't alone. His reflection shimmered in a magical mirror far away, where Gavin had been observing every second of the trial. The vice commander's face twisted in pure shock and rage. His scheme to eliminate the rookie had failed spectacularly. Fran couldn't help but praise the boy's impressive display, while Gavin stewed in silence, trying to mask his fury. The vice commander grumbled about refining the weapon and demanded sugar for his tea. His hand trembled slightly as he dropped cube after cube into the cup, stirring it with aggressive force to quell his anger. He downed the sickeningly sweet concoction in one go, while the commander watched him with a knowing, enigmatic smile. Gavin snapped, dismissing her with a comment about idle division heads. As she left, he was finally alone with his dark, brooding thoughts. He reassured himself that the golem was merely an insurance policy. The real trap was still waiting. That cursed cave wouldn't release its prey so easily. His eyes burned with venomous hatred as he sneered, calling our protagonist a wretched brat. Back in the abyss, the boy collapsed on the cold floor, gasping for air, his stamina completely drained. Anxiety gripped him. Where was the bell? He realized with horror that the candle was nearly extinguished, and his own energy reserves were running on fumes. Suddenly, the hair on the back of his neck stood up. Something moved in the encroaching darkness. He locked his eyes on the pile of monster remains. Did that flesh just twitch? It wasn't a hallucination. The severed flesh began to bubble and writhe in a grotesque display. The nightmare wasn't over. Across the cave floor, the scattered chunks of meat began to crawl toward each other, merging slowly. Before his horrified gaze, the remains fused into a new, abominable form. Every monster he had slain began to regenerate, encircling him once more. Despair washed over him. He realized the terrifying truth: the dungeon's mana density was far too high, acting as a battery for these undying beasts. Just then, a clear, resonant chime echoed through the cavern. The bell. Hope flared in his chest. The rules were absolute. If the candle was lit when the bell rang, he had passed. He forced his tired legs to move, sprinting desperately toward freedom. His eyes burned with a steely resolve. He refused to die in this hellhole. But fate was cruel. A massive horde of monsters, eyes glowing with malice, rose up to block his path. With no other option, he wove through the swarm, shielding the fragile flame with his own body. One mistake, one gust of wind, and it would all be for nothing. The beast closed in, cutting off his escape routes one by one. Even as the jaws of death clamped down, he screamed a defiant war cry. He would never surrender. He poured every ounce of his willpower into keeping that flame alive. Sensing his desperation, the grotesque creatures charged in for the kill. A glimmer of light, the exit, but in that split second of distraction, a brutal blow slammed into him. Pain exploded through his body, but he gritted his teeth, swallowing the agony. He couldn't stop now. He dragged his battered body forward, fixated on the blinding light of the exit. His hand reached out, inches from salvation, but the horde was faster, their claws raised to deliver the final, fatal strike. Suddenly, a mysterious voice thundered through the chaos, commanding him to duck. A crescent of azure energy shears through the air, obliterating the beast in a single strike, sprawled on the dirt. A massive steel boot fills his vision. It is Kieran. The time for testing has finally ended. With overwhelming strength, the commander grips him and hauls him from the abyss of the cave. Beneath the open sky, he gazes at the flickering candle, wondering if the nightmare is truly over. His limits shattered, consciousness fades. He collapses into the dirt, utterly spent. But Kieran catches the falling boy. As he groans in agony from his wounds, Kieran offers a gentle, relieved smile. The trial is complete. A crushing embrace follows. He praises the boy's spirit, but the main character's mind goes dark, plunging into the void of exhaustion. His eyes snap open, shock pierces him. He is no longer outside, but seated upon a throne in a shadowy, ancient hall. A disembodied voice echoes through the gloom. This is the inner sanctum, the ceremonial chamber of the order. Before him stands Commander Arthur, resplendent in ceremonial armor. Beside the commander, the crimson-haired woman watches with a knowing, confident smile. The air is heavy with power. Every captain of the Night Order surrounds him like a council of gods. She declares that the rite of passage begins now to prove their bond. They will unveil their weapons and their sacred vows. Steel rings out, a spearhead drives into the stone floor with a heavy metallic thud. Karen steps forward, her price for power, to never know the warmth of a family. Another blade touches down, glowing with a soft, ethereal light. Fran declares her sacrifice. She has forsaken the taste of food for eternity. Kenneth steps forth next, the vice commander of the 2nd Division, his weapon gleaming in the dark. His oath binds him to absolute truth. He can never lie. Then Grift, commander of the 4th, reveals he sacrificed his right arm to the gods. Jack, vice commander of the 6th, proclaims his bizarre destiny. He is sworn to eternal chastity. The main character watches, trembling. He cannot comprehend the weight of these terrible prices. His mind reels, struggling to process the insanity of their sacrifices. Gavin, the vice commander of the order, emerges from the shadows, his curse to never sleep again. His gaze is cold steel. His shield exists for one purpose: to crush any traitor who dares turn against the order. Leica absorbs every word, the gravity of the moment settling deep in his bones. A commanding voice cuts through the silence. Arthur, the Lord Commander, unsheathes her blade. She raises the steel high, prepared to unveil the heaviest burden of them all before the assembly. The white-haired boy stares, paralyzed. With a regal smile, she speaks the unthinkable. To lead, she has renounced her very gender. Her eyes lock onto the rookie, Leica. Now, he must present his weapon and declare his sacrifice. It is the ultimate test of loyalty. The order demands his truth. The heavy gazes of the legends bear down on him. Panic sets in. He stammers, his mind a total blank. Cold sweat drips down his face. He searches his memories, but finds nothing. He does not know his own oath. Desperate, he clenches his fist. Power surges. A cataclysmic explosion of violet energy erupts, shaking the very hall. Transformation. His hair lengthens, and ancient, glowing runes etch themselves across his skin. The knights recoil in awe. Even Gavin is left stunned by the rookie's raw, untamed potential. As quickly as it came, the aura fades. He returns to his human form, confused but resolute. He bows and declares his name Leica. A single tear of blood traces his cheek. He strains to recall his pact, but the memory is sealed. He rises from the throne, facing the legends. He chooses honesty. He simply does not know. Staring at his trembling hands, frustration boils over. How does he possess this strength deep in his psyche? A shadow whispers he has traded something precious. Silence stretches as the commander judges him, but Leica roars his defiance. He vows to surpass them all to earn his place. No more pain, no more loss. He screams that he will save everyone before the darkness takes them. His passion ignites the room. Fran and Kieran watch him, their eyes shining with newfound respect. To guard the fragile flame of life, he must become the ultimate shield. Arthur raises her blade, her decision made. She accepts his resolve. The boy stands frozen, stunned by her mercy. With a rare, warm smile, she welcomes him into the Brotherhood. He is now a member of the Holy Order. Is this real? His lifelong dream is finally within his grasp. Kenneth and the Knights erupt in applause, honoring their newest brother, overwhelmed. The main character turns away, his heart swelling with pure, unadulterated joy. His eyes shimmer with tears and hope. At long last, he has found his home in this chaotic world. The ceremony reaches its conclusion, and the commander withdraws from the main hall with a satisfied smile. But from the shadows, Gavin watches her. His eyes burn with contempt for accepting a boy who doesn't even know his own vow. The vice commander glares at the situation, hatred festering in his gaze, and in that moment, his name is revealed to the boy. But the commander turns, her voice sharp. She reminds Gavin that he was the one who proposed the condition. Being worthy was simply a matter of surviving the hellish trial he himself created. She continues, her tone grave. To admit one does not know their own vow, that alone is an act of risking one's life. Thus, in her eyes, that reckless honesty was more than enough proof of trust. But the vice commander shouts back, the problem lies in the boy's irregularity. He demands to know what happens if that chaotic power endangers the order itself. Calmly, the red-haired woman dismisses his fears. She says he worries too much, because the boy's flame burns brighter, and the closer he gets to total annihilation. With a knowing smile, she adds a prophecy. His volatile power will surely become the Order's greatest strength in the future. At this response, Gavin stands completely frozen. Shock leaves him speechless. He cannot fathom the Commander General's blind trust in such a variable. The scene shifts dramatically. A massive train cuts through the lush green landscape. A mechanical voice announces their destination, West Central Street. Inside the cabin, an employee announces the journey will last about 2 hours. They ask all passengers to relax and enjoy the ride while they can. From there, we are taken to the Knights Reserve car. There, we find our main character, Kenneth, and Jack taking a moment to rest. The white-haired youth wears a massive grin on his face. He seems ecstatic with his crisp new uniform and his new life in the Order. In his thoughts, he celebrates his acceptance. He tells himself that his days of suffering and humiliation are finally over. Hands behind his head, our protagonist relaxes completely. He foolishly thinks his life will be smooth sailing from here on out. Kenneth just watches him with a bored expression. Suddenly, a young woman approaches with a tray full of delicious food. She says she brought a tribute for the Knights. The boy gets excited and takes the food. But panic sets in as he wonders how he will pay for such a feast. However, the woman smiles. She says he doesn't have to pay a single coin, as it is a special gift. Our main character is awestruck by the woman's kindness. He thinks being a knight is amazing, free stuff everywhere, but Jack cuts in with a dark warning. Do not think it comes for free. As he eats, Jack explains that they pay in a different currency. With a heavy knock on the table, he prepares for the grim revelation. The sound echoes through the car, creating a suffocating atmosphere. Vice Commander Jack reveals the cold truth. They pay for these luxuries with their very lives. Our protagonist is thunderstruck. He repeats the words, "our lives." He cannot comprehend the weight of it. The knight explains further, that is why the people respect them, and why they expect the knights to always protect them in return, no matter the cost. At this explanation, the white-haired youth understands the crushing responsibility without wasting a second. He begins to devour the food with ferocious intensity. He declares that now that he has joined the order, hesitation is death. Seeing this spirit, Jack bursts into laughter. He calls him a very amusing pup. Changing the subject, Kenneth questions the mission. He finds it strange that they are heading specifically to Jack's jurisdiction. With a confident smile, the vice commander of the 6th Division simply confirms his suspicions. He reveals the grim reality. Monster activity in the West has increased significantly. Because of this surge, they were forced to request reinforcements. Looking at the crowded car, Kenneth is surprised by the sheer numbers, but Jack explains that most are fresh rookies or support staff. Our main character nods, agreeing that it makes sense, but suddenly, he turns to Kenneth with a burning question. The white-haired youth asks why he is here. Kenneth shouts furiously. He insists he wasn't just goofing off. He reveals that France sent him personally to keep an eye on the rookie. Jack laughs heartily. He knows his colleague is incapable of lying. Hearing the whole conversation, our protagonist turns red with embarrassment. He never expected to receive such special treatment. The boy then catches Jack's attention. The vice commander looks at him, waiting for the rookie's query. The white-haired youth asks if the vow of chastity really counts. Beside him, Kenneth chokes on his drink at the completely out-of-line question. Jack roars at the boy for such bold disrespect, but our main character defends himself. He claims he's been dying to know since the ceremony. With a laugh, the knight sighs, that is the thinking of a mere pup. He states that God would not accept the same sacrificial offer from him. He explains that the value of chastity is different for someone who has never known love. For the vice commander, what truly matters is the weight and value of the sacrifice. Our main character seems to finally grasp the logic of the order. Jack concludes, what matters is how precious the thing you offer is to you. Kenneth then uses Commander Fran as a prime example for the rookie. After all, she vowed to give up food for the rest of her life. He explains that for her, food meant something much deeper. It wasn't just about the biological need to eat to live. At this revelation, the white-haired youth becomes very thoughtful. He begins to understand the terrifying depth of each knight's vow. The image of Commander Arthur then rises in his mind. Along with her specific vow, he wonders about the sacrifice of giving up one's own gender. Jack and Kenneth exchange a knowing look, and the vice commander continues the explanation. He had one final, earth-shattering detail to add regarding their supreme commander. Kenneth's voice dropped to a grave whisper as he revealed the truth. The commander is a princess of the blood. The main character stood paralyzed, his mind reeling from the shock. The vice commander explained the ancient law. The leader of the order is chosen by fate and must carry the royal bloodline of the kingdom within their veins. Her predecessor was none other than her own half-brother. Upon his passing, the burden of the order's leadership fell squarely onto her shoulders. She had lived a life of silk and luxury, making her vow all the more tragic. To renounce her very gender was a sacrifice that defied imagination. A heavy silence settled over the main character as the gravity of her choice sank in. The weight of a knight's oath pressed down on him. Was this the source? Was this sorrow the fuel for her overwhelming power? The red-haired commander's resolve was truly god-tier. Suddenly, Kenneth gripped the boy's face with an iron vice. The white-haired youth yelped, startled by the sudden aggression. Kenneth's eyes burned with a warning. Curiosity could be fatal. A knight's vow is a scar upon their soul, not a story for idle gossip. Jack stepped in, his voice calm amidst the tension. If the boy proves his worthiness, the truth will be shared. That is the way of the order. But the tension was shattered by the screech of metal. The compartment door groaned open, heralding a new arrival. A uniformed man bowed low, offering apologies. Yet, his stiff posture reeked of something unnatural. He thanked the honorable knights for their patronage. The trio sat stone still, their instincts screaming a warning. The young woman from earlier stepped forward, claiming to be the conductor. The name Doga hung in the air. Upon hearing it, the girl's expression twisted in fear. The atmosphere turned suffocating. The uniformed man locked eyes with the girl, his gaze predatory and wrong. Recognition flashed in his eyes, not of friendship, but of a predator spotting its prey. The facade cracked. A red sigil burned on his face, and his eye glowed with malice. He demanded her identity, his voice dripping with abyssal hatred. Zero hesitation. The entity launched a lethal strike. Jack's combat senses flared instantly. The two main characters froze, their bodies paralyzed by the overwhelming pressure of the monster's killing intent. With a roar like thunder, Jack grabbed them both. He shattered the floorboards with a single stomp, hurling them to safety just as the demon struck. Chaos erupted. The carriage disintegrated into splinters. The main character stared at the twisted spikes, his mind refusing to accept the nightmare before him. The conductor shed his human skin. Nightmarish tentacles burst from his flesh, transforming him into an apostle of death. The train car became a slaughterhouse. Innocent passengers were skewered instantly by the demon's jagged spikes. Leica stood trembling, his eyes wide as he witnessed the gruesome carnage. His mind shattered. The rookie knights had taken the full brunt of the assault. They were helpless against the ambush. One young knight thrashed against the spikes, but the agony pinned him like an insect. A horrifying metamorphosis began. The boy screamed as his humanity was ripped away, his skin turning a sickly, demonic blue. The transformation completed, and a new monstrosity stood tall in the wreckage of the train car. The main character steeled his resolve to fight beside him. The white-haired youth stammered, checking if he was alive. He clung to a desperate hope of saving his fallen comrade, but Kenneth turned, his face a mask of grim realization. He had to drill the reality of death into the rookie's skull. "You fool!" the vice commander roared. He screamed for them to retreat, but fate moved faster than his words. The creature lunged at the main character from the blind spot. Paralyzed by the aura of death, the boy could not move a muscle. A massive purple tentacle whipped through the air, aimed directly at the white-haired youth with bone-crushing force. Terror etched itself onto his face. The ambush was too fast, too perfect. Just as death seemed certain, a shadow intercepted the blow. The main character was sent flying by the shockwave. Jack howled in desperation, throwing his own body into the line of fire to shield the boy. His eyes widened in horror. He could not believe a noble knight had been corrupted into a hellspawn. The creature fully awakened, blue skin pulsing with dark energy. The headless conductor laughed, confirming their worst fears. "I am Doga," the monster bellowed, "and I serve the great mage, Lord Tempest." A grin split his face. "Those who defy my master shall know only despair." Jack grit his teeth, the sound like grinding stones. Fury erupted in his eyes as he took his battle stance. Kenneth and the rookie stood their ground, fighting spirit blazing. The vice commander recognized this foul energy. It was the ancient curse that spawned demons. If the aura was any indication, the man standing before them was none other than the legendary mage himself. The realization strikes like lightning, leaving the boy reeling in shock. Yet, despite his mangled hand, Leica forces a smile, ready to face the impossible. Without warning, another corrupted knight lunges forward. It charges straight for the white-haired youth with killing intent. But Kenneth reacts instantly. His weapon roars, blasting the creature back to protect his comrade. The vice commander grips his blade, preparing to unleash his full power. Kenneth locks onto his target. His aim is steady, pointing directly at the abomination's skull with cold precision. A deafening bang echoes, the shot lands perfectly, and the monster's head erupts in a gruesome flash of emerald light. But the nightmare isn't over. The headless body refuses to fall. Jack shouts a command, unleashing a wave of golden energy, and Leica answers the call. From the depths of his mana, a tiny sprite manifests. He activates the support technique Fairy's Tear. "I'm counting on you," Jack yells, directing the spirit toward Leica. The little fairy darts to the boy's crushed arm, promising to mend what was broken. The white-haired youth gritted his teeth, suppressing a scream as the magic took hold. Blinding golden light engulfs the injury, knitting flesh and bone back together. The fairy declares her task complete, dismissing the injury as a mere scratch. Leica stares in disbelief. His hand, once mangled, is now pristine. He flexes his fingers, stunned by the miracle as an eerie noise cuts through the air. From the shadows, Duga watches with a twisted curiosity. So that is the famed divine art, he muses. The fallen enemy writhes on the floor, but suddenly, the corpse jerks upright, where a head should be. A pulsating brain emerges from the neck, a true monstrosity. Duga's voice echoes in the chaos, analyzing the corrupted knight's resilience. He points out the fatal wound that should have killed any mortal man. A sinister grin stretches across his face. You are doomed to fail, he mocks, and the despair of being slaughtered by your own comrade makes it all the sweeter. A sudden explosion of crimson mana tears through the train car. Duga laughs, calling this massacre a beautiful tragedy. Fury ignites in the eyes of our three heroes. They refuse to let their brothers in arms be reduced to mindless beasts. The truce is over. The battle erupts once more, the trio launching an all-out assault with devastating force. The clash is deafening within the confined space. Jack's eyes widen. The monster's speed is unnatural. He underestimated the corruption. By descending into demonhood, the knight's physical stats have skyrocketed beyond human limits. The transformation has turned him into a living weapon, far removed from the carnage. Duga simply watches with an amused smirk. If you don't stop him soon, Duga taunts, the civilians in the next car will join the slaughter. On cue, the other monsters begin their advance toward the innocent passengers. But Leica moves like a gale. He intercepts one of the beasts, grabbing it with his bare hand to halt its charge. "Stop this!" he screams, his voice cracking with emotion. He pleads with the creature, trying to reach the human soul buried beneath the madness. The monster only answers with a blood-curdling roar. It ignores the boy's pleas, its hunger for normal humans driving it forward. Desperation claws at the white-haired youth's heart. "Wake up," he screams into the void. He begs his former colleague to break the evil trance. Suddenly, thwack, a knife buries itself deep into the monster's eye. The beast shrieks in agony from the blindsiding attack. Leica freezes, stunned, as a shadowy hand manifests, surrounded by orbiting spheres of violet energy. "Don't be a fool," Jack says coldly. "A human who falls to demonhood can never return." His voice is hard as steel. "The Order exists to shield humanity. You should have learned this in the trial of the sheltered flame. To save the many, we must execute the fallen." The vice commander turns his gaze upon the rookie. His eyes are intense, challenging Leica's resolve. "If you lack the stomach for this, then leave the battlefield immediately." The harsh words strike Leica like a physical blow. Kenneth steps in. "We'll handle the combat. Focus on your duty." The white-haired youth clenches his jaw, frustration and anger warring within him. His eyes lock onto a trembling little girl cowering in the corner. An instinct takes over. He scoops her up, pulling her from the jaws of death. He sprints toward the connecting door, carrying her to safety. Switching gears, he begins the frantic evacuation of the train. Everyone move now. His desperate screams cut through the panic. The civilians are paralyzed by the sudden nightmare. Leica bellows again, urging them to run for their lives before it's too late. Chaos erupts as the passengers scramble. A stampede of terror floods the narrow corridor, people fleeing without looking back. The train car descends into absolute pandemonium. The white-haired youth stands his ground, ushering the crowd forward. He has to ensure not a single soul is left behind. But then, his eyes catch movement of family frozen in place. The mother is shaking, clutching her children, unsure of where to go. The kids are wailing in fear, and the woman is locked in a trance of shock. The crushing weight of terror has stolen their ability to move. Suddenly, the door behind them detonates. Shrapnel flies as the barrier shatters, sending a fresh wave of horror through the innocent passengers. Terror freezes the mother and her children in place as they gaze back. Pure horror contorts their faces. A monstrosity has emerged, twisting with four bizarre, lethal arms. The beast prepares to slaughter the defenseless without mercy. Despair rips a scream from the mother's throat as she clutches her little ones. Cornered with nowhere to run, death seems certain. But suddenly, the main character stands as a shield between them and the abyss. Radiant pink energy surges from his arms, crackling with overwhelming power. The vow of the Knight's Order echoes in his soul. Protect the weak. He will not let a single hair on their heads be touched. The white-haired youth launches himself like a cannonball. He pours every ounce of his spirit into this strike to crush the bizarre creature. Transformation sequence activated. Incredible power detonates from his body, ready to eradicate this threat permanently. Materializing from thin air, a sword of blinding light and purple energy manifests. It illuminates the train car like a beacon of judgment. Eyes blazing with fury, he roars his defiance. His determination is absolute. Nothing can check his advance now. With a single, devastating swing, he severs the connection between the cars in an explosion. The impact shears the metal, splitting the train right in the middle of the bridge. Meanwhile, the chaotic melee rages on as Jack bulldozes through the monsters. Kenneth locks and loads to support his brother in arms. But suddenly, both warriors freeze. Shocked by the destruction behind them, disbelief washes over them. The white-haired youth didn't just fight, he completely detached the rear car from the rest of the train. The civilians are isolated, safe but stranded on the bridge. With godlike agility, the main character leaps back into the fray. His transformed state defies gravity. He moves with a terrifying lightness, far more potent than before. He touches down, only to be mocked by the enemy, who sneers and calls him a little doggy. Jack and Kenneth watch, struggling to comprehend the boy's explosive growth. The main character's eyes burn with hatred at the taunt. Doga simply offers a sinister, twisted smile at the chaos. The detached car drifts further and further away, widening the gap from the battlefield. Every second puts more distance between the innocent and the monsters. From afar, the rescued family watches their savior with wide eyes. Safety at last, bought by the knight's noble sacrifice. In his ascended form, he murmurs that the civilians are finally out of harm's way. His sacred mission to shield the innocent stands completed. Doga, however, is perplexed. According to his intel, only the vice commanders possess such strength. The main character snaps. He screams for the villain to shut his mouth, calling him trash with a gaze full of venomous hatred. Sword gripped tight, he swears a blood oath to end the enemy right here. His resolve is iron. Retreat is not an option. The villain merely smirks, mocking the boy's threat. He stands unfazed, completely unimpressed by the youth's rising power. Dripping with sarcasm, he apologizes for the mess. He claims he just wanted to prepare a special event for their journey, though he admits with a shrug, his planning was clearly insufficient for such guests. Rage boils over. The main character roars, branding him a scumbag, but Jack restrains him, urging him to calm down and assess the nightmare before them. The enemy isn't finished. Bizarre tentacles writhe towards the fallen knights' bodies, preparing a grotesque puppetry. Jack grins savagely and proposes a race. Whoever reaches the enemy first claims the glory. We will have the honor of silencing that noisy trash. The trio of heroes locks eyes with the enemy, united by pure killing intent. Doga throws his head back and laughs. He mockingly claims he is shaking with terror. He warns them, fight smart or die. Let us see how you handle your former comrades. A vile purple liquid oozes from the tentacles, invading the knights' corpses. Fight for me, he commands. The reanimated monsters charge, but the hero trio doesn't flinch. They dive headfirst into the slaughter. Jack winds up, raw brute force ready to sever the corruption. Jack blitzes forward with his blades. Slice. He successfully hacks through the disgusting tentacle. Kenneth unleashes a hail of gunfire, providing critical cover. The main character refuses to lag behind and rockets toward the monster horde. Ambush. A slimy tentacle snatches the main character with crushing force. He bellows in anger, struggling against the bizarre creature's vice-like grip. He will not be contained. A supernova of purple energy erupts from his body, blasting outward. Doga materializes amidst the chaos, finding the struggle terribly amusing. He realizes brute force won't work on the boy. But Jack doesn't give a damn about strategy. He charges straight for the boss. Eyes burning with bloodlust, Jack screams that he will rip that scumbag's head from his shoulders. The villain stands motionless. A chillingly calm smile remains plastered on his face. Jack unleashes his ultimate attack, but the enemy dodges with bizarre, ghostly ease. The villain vanishes into thin air, leaving only a destroyed and blood-soaked car in his wake. Rage burns in Jack's eyes like wildfire. He storms through the carriage, roaring for the coward to show himself, but the shadows remain empty. Silence swallows the dark train corridor. Jack freezes, blade gripped tight. Did the enemy truly vanish into thin air? Impossible. No mere mortal could slip away that fast without a trace. His senses sharpen, hunting for any disturbance in the mana. There, a trail of crimson blood leading deeper into the wreckage. He throws open the door and his heart stops. Pure horror strikes him cold. The real train conductor lies broken on the floor. Agony is etched into the poor man's every feature. He is clinging to life by a thread. Fury at this cowardly trap boils in the vice commander's veins, disregarding his own safety. He drops to his knees. "Hold on, are you all right?" The victim only answers with a guttural groan. His consciousness is fading fast into the void. Jack channels his healing mana to save him, but then, a spike of killing intent. Terror washes over Jack's face as the victim lunges. A hidden blade drives straight through his shoulder. The facade crumbles. The man lifts his head, wearing a grin of pure, sinister mockery. The fake conductor lets out a low, distorted chuckle. It grows into a cackle that chills the bone. Jack recoils, eyes wide with shock. He flings his dagger to the floor in frustration as the enemy's laughter pierces the air. The imposter sneers. "You knights, so noble, so foolish, walking right into the slaughter." Jack grinds his teeth, hatred surging from his eyes. But before he can strike, the enemy's flesh begins to bubble and warp. "Your precious order always saves the weak." The creature hisses. "My big brother counted on that." Flesh tears apart. A grotesque entity bursts forth from the disguise. "Isn't that right, brother?" The monstrosity expands, growing larger and larger until its suffocating aura fills the entire carriage. The true mastermind steps from the shadows. It's the attacker from before. He clutches the smaller demon, laughing down at the bleeding knight. Jack spits a curse, hatred burning in his gaze, but the villain only widens his twisted, mocking smile. Ignoring the pain, Jack rises. "I'll kill you, scumbags," he roars, charging forward, but the demon is too fast. A brutal impact sends him flying. He crashes down, eyes trembling. The difference in power is overwhelming. The smaller demon pins Jack down. "Idiot," it sneers. "Brother, shall we toss this trash to the wind?" The giant nods in agreement. Perfect acting. Dulce, Doga booms. The demon brothers, Doga and Dulce, have finally revealed their true forms. Through the pain, a horrific thought strikes Jack. The conductor. What did you do to the real one? Dulce grins, sharp teeth glinting. "Oh, him. He learned to fly a long time ago." Splat. Meanwhile, Kenneth sprints through the carriages. Panic fuels his steps. "Jack! Jack!" he screams. He bursts into the car and freezes at the sight of his comrade lying in a pool of blood. Kenneth rushes to his side, trembling with shock. He looks up at the demons, his eyes blazing with righteous fury. "You filth, you monsters!" he roars. Doga just laughs, unfazed. "Did you enjoy our little show? Even elite knights are easy prey." The demon mocks. "All it takes is a little brain power to crush you." The brothers bask in their triumph, but suddenly the air vibrates. A slash of purple energy tears through the void. It flies straight for the villains. Their smug grins vanish, replaced by absolute shock. Too fast to dodge. The energy blade slams directly into Dulce, perched on his brother's shoulder. A blood-curdling shriek echoes through the train. The deep gash smokes with dark energy. The creature writhes in agony. The power behind that strike was far beyond anything they expected. From the smoke, he steps forward, the MC clad in flames. His voice drips with disdain. "Did you say elite knight?" Purple mana crackles around his boots as he walks with the terrifying calm of a predator. The white-haired Reaper has arrived. His eyes shine with lethal light. "I'm just a rookie," he states coldly, "and I'm going to mount your heads on a spike." He locks eyes with the demons, radiating pure killing intent. Behind him, Kenneth is in a frantic struggle to save Jack. Kenneth clamps his hands over the wound, but the crimson flow won't stop. Life is leaking out of Jack. "It's too deep," Kenneth realizes with horror. He screams at the top of his lungs. "Neve, we need you now." A flash of light. The fairy Neve materializes. "Leave it to me," she cries, gathering her mana. She unleashes a blinding golden aura, pouring every ounce of her magic into the dying knight. Divine light bathes them both, but Neve's face is grim. He's unconscious. The mana isn't circulating. It's going to take time. The wound is knitting too slowly. Seeing their chance, Dulce snarls. The demon raises a twisted claw, ready to slaughter them all. His hand is completely pulverized by the boy's strike. Doga snarls in pain, cursing the arrogance of mere humans. Disgusted by the knight's defiance, he realizes he underestimated them. These are elite warriors, and it is time to call his brother into the fray. The villain hatches a sinister new plan to end this stalemate. With a twisted grin, Dulce surveys the chaos with pure malice in his eyes. The thrill of battling such powerful prey excites him. In perfect sync, the demon brothers blast a beam of destructive energy straight at the ceiling. The attack obliterates everything in its path. A massive hole is torn open in the roof of the train car. With the barrier gone, Doga demands they take this battle into the open air. He wants a slaughter where both sides can unleash their full, catastrophic power. A wicked smile stretches across his face as he locks eyes with the white-haired youth. Do you accept the challenge? Debris rains down like hail, ratcheting up the tension. Through the jagged opening, the open sky and the deadly bridge await them. The battlefield is about to shift to a much deadlier stage. Our main character scowls, glancing back at Kenneth, who is tending to the wounded Jack. He orders the boy to leave the defense to the cook. Watch the hostages, he warns, his voice grave. Kenneth nods with steel in his eyes. Accepting the burden, leave it to me. The white-haired youth turns back to the enemy and demands their purpose. Smirking, Doga replies that his only duty is to drag them into the abyss of death. He declares that for his master's glory, they shall never reach the west. The main character demands to know what scheme their master is hatching in those lands. But the villain offers only silence. His eyes, the dead have no need for answers. You perish here, he hisses with a demonic grin. The two brothers vanish, leaping into the pitch-black tunnel atop the bridge. Our main character notes the suffocating darkness and steels himself for the worst. Suddenly, hundreds of glowing eyes ignite in the shadows, whispering of murder. In an instant, a swarm of grotesque bats screeches toward the white-haired youth. These are nightmares made flesh, with bulging eyes and venomous tongues. Unfazed, the hero manifests his energy sword, ready to paint the walls red. He moves like a blur of light. His mana blade dances, cleaving through the swarm with terrifying precision, his eyes burning with indomitable will. Yet, the abyss is relentless. More monsters pour from the shadows, surrounding him in a choking tide of claws and teeth. He realizes this is a war of attrition. To survive, he must hunt down the summoner controlling this endless horde. A creature breaches his guard, aiming for his blind spot. Just before it strikes, a bolt of green energy vaporizes the beast, leaving the hero stunned. The boy snaps his head around, searching for the source of this miraculous save. It is Kenneth, standing high above. You all right? He roars, weapon in hand. The vice commander stares down the monster horde with grim resolve. You cannot face this darkness alone, he shouts. Watch your front. I have got your six. Our main character smirks, accepting the strength of his ally. Kenneth takes a combat stance, his aura flaring as he prepares to unveil his true power. Witnessing this bond, Doga laughs maniacally. Your pathetic journey ends now. The villain's body shatters into stone fragments. Simultaneously, a colossal wave of blue energy surges toward the main character with the force of a tsunami. The azure destruction closes in. Our hero raises his sword, but suddenly, the white-haired youth sprints at Godspeed directly into the enemy's attack. A confident smirk plays on his lips. Too bad, he whispers. Your plan has already failed. In a flash, the scene warps. A hand clamps onto Kenneth's face with bone-crushing pressure. Shockingly, the attacker is none other than our main character, moving faster than the eye can track. The demon watching from the shadows is baffled. Why would the boy attack his own comrade? Confused but opportunistic, the creature charges at the restrained Kenneth. The vice commander's eyes go wide with betrayal. Why? His expression screams. But Doga's confusion turns to terror as the truth hits him. How did he know? A knight trusts his brother, the hero declares, crushing the villain's hidden core in his grip. His eyes blaze with absolute certainty. I trust my comrade with my life. A memory flashes Kenneth's plea to leave everything in his hands, and the vow that he was counting on the boy's strength. Doga panics as his illusion shatters and his strategy crumbles into dust. My friend never lies, the hero roars. With overwhelming force, he obliterates the core, dispelling the trickery. Fury radiates from the main character as he lunges at the true enemy. Doga is paralyzed by shock, unable to react to this lightning-fast counterattack. With a torque that rips the air, the white-haired youth lands a devastating blow. The impact is cataclysmic. The bridge floor cracks under the pressure as the villain howls in agony. Our main character holds him in an iron grip, leaving no room for escape. Well, he taunts with a savage grin. How does it feel to be crushed by a rookie? In his final, desperate moments, Doga screams into the void, begging his master, Tempest, for salvation, but only silence answers him. The train thunders on through the dark tunnel as Dulce's body explodes into 1,000 shards under the boy's supreme power. Before the scattered remains of his enemy, our main character sinks to his knees and releases his transformation. Gazing down at the grotesque corpse, he whispers that he can never truly replace Jack, but he fought with everything he had regardless. A dark smile touches his lips as he rises, convinced that the heavens will forgive his brutal methods. The white-haired youth stares at the carnage with the eyes of a victor. But victory is short-lived. A sudden jolt of confusion hits him as reality begins to warp and twist around him. A terrifying vision takes hold. Suddenly, he stands alone in an infinite desert, watching the train race along an endless, impossible track. A figure manifests on the rails, gripping a hammer of titanic proportions. Just as the fear sets in, the illusion shatters, snapping him back to the shaking train car. Kenneth's voice pierces the air. He screams that someone is standing directly on the tracks ahead. Instinct takes over. The vice commander throws himself to the side of the train as the steel beast hurtles forward at breakneck speed, showing no signs of slowing down. Through the wind and chaos, he spots a lone woman, standing completely still in the middle of the bridge, her expression deadly serious. This was no ordinary human. She stood like a mountain, muscles coiled for violence, gripping an ice hammer that radiated pure intimidation. The warrior reveals her true identity, Bridget, the iron-willed commander of the 6th Division, staring down a speeding train without flinching. Frost aura explodes from her weapon. The ice hammer pulses with chilling blue mana, looking heavy enough to crush a dragon. With a roar, the commander slams her weapon into the tracks. The impact is catastrophic, sending a shockwave rippling through the metal floor. The impossible happens. A colossal wall of glacial ice erupts from thin air, slamming into the high-speed train with godlike force. Our main character and Kenneth can only watch in horror, screaming as the laws of physics are rewritten before their eyes. Metal groans against the magic, and finally the train freezes in place, right in front of the commander and her waiting squad. The silence is broken as Bridget boards the car, marching toward them with the aura of a predator. The white-haired woman has only one target in mind. She walks right past them, ignoring the chaos, and stops before a boy hanging upside down, chanting a single demand like a mantra, "Hand it over." Violence erupts in a flash. A sharp slap echoes through the carriage, leaving our main character and Kenneth stunned by this bizarre display of discipline. Her eyes burning with authority, she demands a full situation report. The slapped soldier trembles, preparing to explain the nightmare they just survived. The soldier grumbles in pain, but suddenly, a strange energy ripples through his body, alerting him to the truth. Bridget's patience snaps. She demands the report again, but the soldier ignores the order, his eyes going wide with realization as he shouts, "The title, Your Highness." He drops to his knees in instant submission. The commander glares down, asking why on earth he is here. Confusion strikes our duo. Our main character and Kenneth shout in unison, "Older sister." The revelations continue as everyone scrambles off the train onto the bridge. The tension shifts as a soldier presents a bouquet of flowers to the commander, creating a surreal scene amidst the wreckage. Leica scratches his head, wondering if Jack is truly the man who took the eternal vow of celibacy. Bridget turns, her gaze sharp enough to cut glass. The soldier stammers out the truth, explains that their reinforcements mutated into demons and were slaughtered in the ensuing battle. The report turns darker. He reveals the enemy was named Doga, a loyal servant to a power far more terrifying. The soldier's voice trembles as he confirms it. The villain spoke the name of the nightmare, the demon mage, Tempest. The atmosphere plummets. Hearing that name, the commander's face hardens with grave seriousness. She barks orders instantly. "Contact headquarters now." She commands her squad to secure the civilians separated from the main group. A soldier turns to our main character and Kenneth, offering a grim clue. He believes he knows where the demon mage has fled. Leo is baffled, asking if they are talking about the same enemy they just fought. Kenneth frowns, realizing the scale of this threat. Is this mage really that famous? The vice commander looks away, a bead of sweat on his brow. He admits he is no scholar, but even he knows the dark history. He lowers his voice, explaining that this mage is not just a man, he is a living legend from a forgotten era. This was the monster who tore the sky asunder, the one who opened the void to summon the Demon King himself, and twisted humanity into demons for sport. His name is Tempest, and the Demon Mage, the ruler of all nightmares. Our main character falls silent, the weight of destiny crushing down on him. He whispers the word legend, his eyes burning with renewed determination. The scene dissolves, transporting us to a landscape of despair. An endless desert stretches to the horizon, where shifting sands whisper the secrets of a desolate world. A commander breaks the silence, pointing toward their destination, the Celestial Demon Temple, the place where Tempest is plotting his next move. Leica gasps in disbelief. Celestial demons? I thought those were just bedtime stories for children. He refuses to accept that myths are walking the earth, but Kenneth stares into the distance, his voice grim and final. You are wrong. These are not stories. This is the blood-soaked history of our world. The commander reveals the ancient truth. The Divine Knights didn't just kill the Demon King, they carved him apart, and his flesh mutated into intelligent monsters. One fragment became a master of storms, summoning lightning from the heavens, while a purple dragon soared over the ruins, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. Another beast incinerated entire cities with hellfire. The heat was so intense, it turned solid rock into molten slag. A second monster summoned cataclysmic floods from the void. Rising waters obliterated everything, drowning the world without mercy. And the final terror, it held the power to shatter the earth and split the very ground asunder. A dragon soars over a magma-filled canyon beneath a crimson sun. Kenneth explains the grim truth. The ancient knights had no choice but to seal these horrors within temples. One of these cursed sanctuaries appears on screen. But even with the seal in place, the demons still leak a poisonous miasma. This corruption spreads, spawning endless waves of new monsters. Deep in the shadows, a pair of glowing pink eyes observes them. A sinister presence, lying in wait for the perfect moment to strike. The white-haired woman reveals the tragedy. This desert was once a lush paradise, until the water demons drained the land of its life essence. Ruka and Kenneth absorb every word of this dark history. The gravity of the situation weighs heavily on their expressions. She drops a bombshell revelation. Their scouts have located the man who manufactures these demons. The commander confirms the worst. Headquarters feared this rumor was true. If the man on the train used that name, they must mobilize immediately. Tension floods the woman's face. This is the nightmare scenario. That mage could trigger a calamity unlike anything recorded in history. An image of Tempest manifests, shrouded in a dark crimson aura. The terrifying question hangs in the air. Was the enemy always one step ahead? Ruka scans the horizon, his gaze sharp with anxiety. Could the legendary mage truly be this close? Narrator confirms it. Tempest is a walking apocalypse. The celestial demon who once summoned the Demon King himself, sensing the danger. The beasts pulling their sandboat surge forward. They sprint desperately across the endless, scorching dunes. The woman announces their arrival. The entrance to the underground ruin lies just ahead. Suddenly, a beast lets out a blood-curdling screech. It sensed something ancient and deadly lurking beneath the sands. Instantly, the boat is dragged down with titanic force. Panic erupts as the ground betrays them. A violent yank pulls them under. The trio is completely blindsided by the ambush. Above them, a sinister red moon dominates the dark desert sky. Ruka stares at it, a wave of twisted deja vu crashing over him. A mysterious voice echoes in his psyche. Ah, how nostalgic. The white-haired hero is bewildered, whose voice is invading his mind. Meanwhile, the quicksand swallows their vessel whole. They are launched into the void, plummeting through the darkness. Far below, a colossal structure rises from the depths of the sand. Our protagonist screams in realization. It's the lost temple of the celestial demon. With superhuman agility, he sticks the landing on a tower, but the stone crumbles under his power, and he loses his footing. As he free falls, he screams for the tower to stop moving. Suddenly, bizarre party music blasts, and confetti explodes in the air. Ruka is utterly baffled by the festivities. A voice welcomes him, sounding disturbingly delighted. Tempest the mage steps from the shadows. He reveals the truth last time was just a puppet. Ruka realizes he never fought the real body. From atop the ruin, he glares daggers at the shadowy figure of the archmage. Tempest's face emerges from the gloom, wearing a sick, mocking grin. He's clearly enjoying every second of this chaos. Ruka grits his teeth, rage boiling over. He shouts into the abyss, demanding to know if this is the true demon mage. The villain reveals his full appearance with a terrifyingly calm smile. His eyes show zero fear of the knights before him. Our protagonist is stunned, frozen. The villain's demeanor is completely unexpected. Out of nowhere, Bridget launches a surprise attack. Her ice hammer swings with crushing force. The commander charges the mage without hesitation, but Tempest weaves through the attack effortlessly, intercepting Kenneth. His speed is godlike. He predicted every move. The commander slams into the ground, sending a shockwave rippling through the temple. Undeterred, she gathers her strength for a second strike. The mage just smirks, scoffing at their efforts. You knights haven't evolved at all, still just as barbaric as the old days. The white-haired warrior glares him down. Are you the demon mage? Her hammer pulses with lethal blue energy. Fury in her voice. She declares this sacred ground off limits. Leave this place, or be removed. But Tempest simply sits down, the picture of arrogance. He refuses to move an inch. His calm mockery pushes the commander to the breaking point. The mage's voice trembles with manic glee as he reveals the truth. Centuries of forbidden research and countless failed experiments have all led to this singular, monumental heartbeat in history. Drip. Suddenly, a single drop of rain strikes the arid sand, the sound ringing out like a gunshot in the silent wasteland. The atmosphere twists violently above the scorching dunes. The heavens themselves begin to distort in a terrifying display. An impossible deluge begins to hammer the ancient temple. While high above, the crimson moon glows with malevolent intensity, bathing the storm in blood-red light. Rain. In the middle of the desert, Commander Bridget's composure shatters. Her eyes widen in primal fear, a scream tearing from her throat as she realizes the nightmare has begun. A twisted grin stretches across Tempest's face. The ritual is complete. He confirms he has successfully awakened the calamity of Legend's Lord Vabel, the celestial water demon. The heavens open up, unleashing a torrential flood upon the sanctuary. Sir Kenneth and the Holy Knights stand frozen, their minds struggling to process the mage's terrifying proclamation. Bridget's shock instantly hardens into cold steel. She glares at the enemy, her eyes burning with undiluted hatred and the resolve to kill. Even the main character feels a chill run down his spine at the demon's return. The air grows heavy, and suddenly through the curtain of rain, a petite silhouette emerges. It's a girl with pink hair and wicked horns. Yawning, she rubs her eyes sleepily, grumbling about how exhausted and lazy she feels. This is the world-ending threat. Confusion washes over the hero. He stares at the groggy child, wondering if this lazy girl is truly the terrifying celestial demon mentioned in the ancient texts. Ignoring the absurdity, the mage beams with reverence. A glorious morning to you, O great Lord Vabel, who has finally awakened. Tempest drops to his knees, trembling with devotion. He apologizes for disturbing her rest and presses a kiss to the creature's hand. Instantly, a mystical blue crest ignites with blinding power. The command is given, my lord, the mage hisses. Obliterate these pests. Destroy the descendants of the wretches who dare to seal you away. Sweep them from this earth, he demands. But the pink-haired demon just scoffs. With a bored expression, she shoves the fanatic aside, her stuffed rabbit pulsing with ominous energy. The main character and his allies watch the scene in stunned silence. The demon just rejected her summoner. Shut up, Vabel snaps, her aura flaring. Don't bark orders at me right after waking me up. Tempest freezes, staring at his god in utter embarrassment. Ruka narrows his eyes, his grip tightening on his weapon. The pressure is immense, but the attitude? Is this really a divine calamity? Focus. Bridget's voice cuts through the confusion. She warns them to stay sharp. She senses a suffocating, dense miasma radiating from the girl. If that monster is fully unsealed, they are all dead men walking. Vabel scans the knights with eyes full of utter boredom, waiting for the commander to finish her thought. Wait. The demon pauses. Her lethargic expression vanishes, replaced by a spark of genuine surprise as she looks to the side. The hero blinks, realizing she's looking right at him. Boom! Before he can draw a breath, Vabel vanishes and reappears instantly in front of the white-haired youth. She hovers inches from his face, invading his personal space, studying him with intense, predatory curiosity. Recognition flashes in her eyes. Aha, it's you, Atron. Long time no see. The protagonist's mind races in complete confusion. Who on earth is Atron? Why are you lurking in my territory? Vabel demands. The young man stammers, completely bewildered. I have no idea what you're talking about. A mischievous grin spreads across her face. Oh, so you've reincarnated into a human vessel. The hero freezes. Reincarnation taking over a body. His pupils tremble. The pink-haired creature's casual words have just shattered his understanding of reality. Watching from the sidelines, Tempest pieces the puzzle together. He recalls the strange divine resonance he felt earlier, a connection to a god from another dimension. Ruka glances at the murmuring mage, the situation spiraling further into chaos with every passing second. Crash. Vabel gets bored of talking. With a flick of her wrist, a torrent of water obliterates a stone tower. The hero barely rolls away, screaming as debris rains down. She giggles, floating above the destruction. Come on, big brother, let's play a game. As her aura explodes around her, she ascends into the sky, locks onto a target, and hurls a spear of compressed water straight at Commander Bridget. Catch this if you can, white-haired lady, she chirps with a sadistic smile, daring the woman to survive. Thwack. The liquid lance slams into Bridget's chest with the force of a cannonball. She cries out in agony, collapsing. Commander, the protagonist screams, horror seizing his heart. Agony contorts Bridget's face. Jack, help me, she gasps. Without hesitation, Jack summons his spirit guardian. Neve, we need healing, now. A flash of light. The small fairy materializes, radiating a soothing golden warmth against the cold rain, ready for action. Divine magic begins to knit the flesh back together, but the pain is excruciating. The white-haired commander clutches her shattered arm, teeth gritted against the torment. Reflected in the silver of her pendant, she sees the protagonist's face twisted in rage. Enough defense. Kenneth steps forward, unleashing a beam of emerald energy at Vabel. The creature swats the attack away like a fly. Ugh, how annoying, she pouts. Don't interrupt our reunion. Brother, come play with me. She laughs, but her movements are lethal. She spins midair and drives a devastating water-infused kick toward the commander. Kenneth fires another volley to cover them, desperation in his eyes. The pink-haired disaster scowls, her patience evaporating. You pests are really ruining the mood. The air pressure drops. She raises a hand, and the desert floods. A colossal tsunami rises from nothingness, defying all laws of nature. The water compresses into a terrifying sphere of destruction. Go! She commands coldly. Dozens of liquid entities take shape, water spirits swarming forward to slaughter the insects. Hold the line. Steel clashes against magic as the knights fight for their lives against a relentless army of water spirits. And, in the distance, Tempest is losing his mind with joy. He's actually set up a VIP chair and binoculars. Magnificent, marvelous, he cheers, watching the carnage like it's his favorite sporting event. The assistant indulges in a sweet treat, noting that her master's mood is unusually high today. For the mage, witnessing the legendary celestial demon in action is a dream finally realized. Pure ecstasy fills him as he secures a front row seat to this clash of titans. But the protagonist reels from the revelation that a demon could awaken from a human vessel, his curiosity satisfied. The mage prepares to depart for the northern temple. He freezes. A terrifying pressure descends from the sky. A colossal blade tears through the clouds, radiating overwhelming dominance. Tempest clicks his tongue in irritation. The most headache-inducing obstacle has finally arrived. Perched atop the massive blade stands General Arthur. Her presence alone commands absolute submission. Her gaze is cold as steel. She acknowledges the chaos her subordinates have left behind. A confident smirk plays on her lips as she challenges the mage. The commander of the Divine Knights has come to crash this party. Tempest observes the chaos, a sinister grin spreading across his face like a predator finding prey. Meanwhile, Commander Arthur's sharp eyes dissect the battlefield, taking in every detail of the carnage. She descends on her floating blade just as Kieran materializes by her side, awaiting orders. The Crimson Commander issues her decree. She points the blue-haired knight toward the ultimate threat, the celestial demon atop the temple. Tempest watches the exchange, deciding it is time to intervene in this drama. Ancient runes flare to life around him. With a wicked smile, he prepares to unleash a forbidden spell. In a blink, the commander vanishes and reappears directly in front of the mage. A chilly greeting drops from her lips. Blade at the ready, the red-haired general delivers an ultimatum. She demands his promise to cease all hostility immediately. But Tempest and his aide merely stare back, their eyes filled with mocking amusement. I think not. The mage sneers. Instantly, the commander launches a devastating strike to silence him. Her attack halts midair. Oh my, she whispers, genuinely surprised by the resistance. Boom! A massive explosion swallows the area. Pure shock is etched onto the commander's face. Two streaks of light tear across the horizon as Arthur drags the mage away. Meanwhile, Kieran descends like a lightning bolt, spear ready for war. The knight confirms their desperate mission. They must hold the line against the celestial demon. 3 minutes, he roars. Survive until the commander returns. They steel their nerves for the coming storm. Sensing their resolve, VOWS unleashes her water spirits, and an ocean of power crashes toward them. The impact is catastrophic. Both warriors are forced back, barely withstanding the pressure. A support knight steps forward to turn the tide. A massive healing formation glows beneath their feet. The protagonist gasps as revitalizing energy floods his veins. Ignore the pain attack with everything you have, the healer screams. The pink-haired demon clicks her tongue, her irritation spiking. The water spheres around her begin to boil and bubble ominously. Ryuka senses the spike in danger. The attack, it's splitting apart, he screams. Logic defies reality as the spheres multiply into a swarm and launch a full-scale bombardment. A knight summons a purple aura shield to intercept, but the demon's hydro energy crushes his defense like glass. The onslaught is relentless. My flame barrier. It's useless, the knight cries in despair. Suddenly, beams of emerald energy pierce the sky. Kenneth arrives, obliterating the projectiles with heavy firepower. Don't get cocky, the vice commander warns him. He explains the elemental hierarchy. Fire stands no chance against the demon's water. The black-haired knight nods, the path to victory becoming clear. Kieran explodes with high-voltage mana. Thunder Spear, awaken, he roars, summoning his divine weapon. A dragon of blue lightning surges forward, crashing into the wall of water. Commander Bridget joins the fray. She raises her massive hammer, Winter of Demis. An apocalyptic freeze sweeps across the battlefield. She intends to encase everything in eternal ice. The frost engulfs VOWS, but the demon simply floats there, completely unbothered. How tedious, she sighs. A hand adorned with a broken shackle reaches out. Playtime is over. The atmosphere screams in protest as she gathers every drop of moisture for a world-ending attack. A maelstrom of azure energy swirls violently, condensing around her very essence. The creature's power skyrockets past critical limits, shattering her previous form. VOWS sheds her disguise, revealing a terrifying new appearance steeped in darkness. Karen feels the crushing weight of her expanding aura. He warns the squad, brace yourselves. The real nightmare begins now. Facing this overwhelming threat, the black-haired knight refuses to back down. Crimson markings erupt across his skin as he unleashes his dormant power. Hatred burns in his glowing eyes as he prepares to risk it all, but a voice echoes in his psyche. Brother, why do you push me away? Panic seizes the knight's heart. He clutches his head, screaming for the whispers to cease immediately. With pure rage, he denies the darkness. I am a human, a divine knight. VOWS pauses, bewildered by the mortal's fierce resistance. But confusion fades in an instant, replaced by a bloodthirsty grin revealing razor-sharp fangs. Our hero roars, commanding her to look away. His crimson eyes flare, but agony threatens to tear his mind apart. Kenneth turns in alarm. Witnessing his comrade's internal struggle, Ryuka grinds his teeth, cursing this burdensome fate. A splitting headache brings him to his knees. The vice commander shouts his name, fear lacing his voice. The white-haired warrior realizes with horror, this isn't just a voice, it's a living presence invading his soul. Desperate, he confronts the abyss within. Who the hell are you? He demands of his own consciousness. The shadow replies with a chilling laugh. I am you, and you are me. Let me take over. I will crush VOWS like an insect. Our protagonist freezes, terrified by the alien entity lurking inside his own skull. Suddenly, Chiron screams a warning. She's unleashing everything. VOWS ascends before the blood-red moon, channeling a cataclysmic spell. Smiling like a predator, she launches herself at the knights with godlike speed. Kenneth opens fire, desperate to stop her advance, but the bullets bounce off like rain, and VOWS closes in, her mockery stinging worse than the blows. Suddenly, a prison of water encases him. Kenneth is immobilized before he can even blink. VOWS delivers a devastating strike. The vice commander is launched like a ragdoll, crashing into the earth with bone-shattering force. But hope is not lost. A heavy boot slams down, shaking the battlefield. It's Commander Bridget. She charges in, wielding her massive frost hammer with killing intent. Glacial energy explodes on impact, sending shards everywhere, but VOWS catches the titanic blow with a single hand. Bridget stares in disbelief at the monster's overwhelming strength. As her mana gathers in VOWS' palm, the counterattack is instant and lethal. A shockwave blasts Bridget backward, sending the commander flying helplessly through the air. The support knight cries out in panic, but Bridget grits her teeth. Ignore me. Focus on keeping the others alive. He nods, steeling his resolve to obey orders. Meanwhile, Ryuka's skull feels like it's being split open. What is happening to me? His sanity teeters on the edge of oblivion. I can't! Hold it back! The black-haired knight roars. He locks eyes with Vabel, fighting a war on two fronts. Vabel senses weakness and lunges without mercy. Ryuka's eyes go wide in pure shock. There is no time to dodge. The demon grins at his pathetic state. Her glowing hand makes contact with his heart, sending shockwaves through his core. Music. Blue energy erupts from within him. A scream of pure agony tears from his throat. His expression twists in torture as the demonic power ravages his body. The healer screams Ryuka's name. He realizes standard recovery spells are useless against this damage. He summons the spirit Neve. Use everything you have, and the fairy darts forward, pouring her entire life force into a desperate heal. But even divine restoration isn't enough. The black-haired knight writhes in excruciating pain. Golden light bathes his form. Fighting the darkness, Vabel watches, intrigued by the potent magic. Her intrigue turns to boredom. Is that all? Your parlor tricks are meaningless? She scoffs with disdain. Acheron has truly fallen if this is his vessel. Deep within the mindscape, the malevolent entity awakens, its eyes burning with ancient hatred. Submit to me, give me control, the voice thunders. Ryuko screams back into the void. Shut up, I will never yield to you. I am not a celestial demon, he bellows. Suddenly, the sky tears open as two meteors of light descend. The dust clears to reveal Commander Arthur. The mage Tempest lies defeated at her feet. Arthur smirks. Persistent little mage, aren't you? But the shadows shift, a red-haired assassin emerges to settle the score. No words are wasted. Blade in hand, she launches a lethal ambush against the commander. With a battle cry that shakes the heavens, she unleashes her full might upon the commander general. The strike lands true. Arthur's legs are severed in an instant, yet the woman merely praises her enemy's ruthlessness, vowing she will never let her escape. Despite the gruesome injury, Arthur forces a chilling smile, realizing the warrior is desperate to end this execution immediately. The commander taunts her, piercing through her thoughts. She knows the red-haired warrior is frantic to return and save her squad from the nightmare unfolding elsewhere. With a cruel grin, Arthur offers a sadistic choice: waste time trying to kill her, or abandon the fight to rescue her friends. The warrior's eyes burn with unwavering resolve as she stares down her enemy. She has made her decision. She chooses both. She will slaughter the commander and save her comrades. With a surge of aura, she summons a catastrophic storm of blades. The ultimate technique, Morgan's Reign of Judgment, descends upon the commander with earth-shattering force. There is no escape. Arthur's body is utterly obliterated by the warrior's devastating bombardment. As her form disintegrates into dust, the undying commander merely sighs, annoyed that regenerating from this will take so long. She offers a final, mocking congratulation for buying time, wondering if the warrior's friends are even still alive to be saved. The white-haired commander bids farewell before detonating in a blinding flash. The warrior ignores the blast, soaring at supersonic speed toward the ominous crimson moon. She tears through the sky, pushing her speed to the limit to reach the next battlefield. Her expression is a mask of pure desperation to change fate, but the narration reveals a cruel reality. Only 2 minutes and 50 seconds have passed. Yet, when the warrior arrives at the temple, her heart stops. The scene is nothing but a graveyard of ruins. Her comrades lie broken and scattered in the relentless rain, and standing amidst the carnage, a single celestial demon reigns supreme. Rewinding time by mere minutes, we witness the tragedy unfold. The support knight watches in horror as his team's injuries grow critical. Facing them is Vabel, watching with a terrifying, statue-like stillness, realizing the danger. The three leaders prepare a desperate combination assault. Kenneth roars, unleashing his signature technique as verdant energy explodes from his body with maximum output. Chiron and Bridget synchronize their souls, merging the destructive forces of thunder and glacial ice into a single cataclysmic strike. The dual energies fuse into a colossal beam. A giant cannon of magical power roars toward the demon with overwhelming pressure. Impact. A blinding explosion swallows the temple ruins, shaking the very foundation of the world. Did we get him? Kenneth screams through the smoke. But the support knight's face drains of all color as the dust settles. Kenneth's hope turns to despair. The attack. It did absolutely nothing to the monster. Unscathed. the creature simply raises a finger to its lips, silencing them with a chilling shush. The knights freeze in terror. The power of the ice and thunder cannon has been reflected, and it is hurtling straight back at them. Boom! The reflected power detonates, obliterating everything in a catastrophic shockwave. Kenneth writhes in the debris, groaning in agony. Fable steps through the dust without a scratch, looking at them with eyes void of all emotion. In a blink, the entity vanishes, reappearing instantly in front of the white-haired commander. She freezes. The commander realizes death is imminent. She cannot dodge in time. Fable's fist glows with azure ruin, but at the last second, the support. Knight throws his body into the line of fire to take the demon's punch. The impact crunches bone, yet he smiles. I am used to this pain, he grunts, locking the creature's fist in a death grip to immobilize it. For the first time, Fable flinches. The demon's energy flickers wildly. It is confused by this suicidal tenacity. Seizing the opening, he manifests a massive ice hammer. Commander Bridget stares, stunned by the support knight's hidden strength. But the demon's surprise fades. A sinister grin spreads across Fable's face. How annoying. A tsunami of water erupts from the ground. The overwhelming force blasts the knights away like ragdolls. Ryuka drags himself up, only to see Chiron's unmoving body. Despair crashes over him as he gazes at his fallen squad mates in the rain. Rage boils in his veins. He cannot accept this reality, but a voice echoes in his psyche, "Stall now, and everyone dies." The knight forces himself to stand, manifesting a jagged blade of violet energy in his grasp. With a primal scream of fury, he charges straight into the jaws of death. He delivers a devastating kick, but Fable blocks it effortlessly. The difference in power is suffocating. His violet aura shatters like glass. The demon counters, swatting him away with a single casual strike. The black-haired knight crashes into the mud, utterly broken and drained of all strength. Bloodied and trembling, our protagonist glares up with defiant eyes. The creature looms over him, asking, "Is that really all you have?" The youth can only stare in silence, his spirit crushed. Fable sighs with boredom, declaring this battle a complete waste of time. In the young man's terrified eyes, the monstrous creature looms, ready to strike. A desperate woman screams, "You're all killjoys, I'm tired of this." With a gaze colder than ice, the creature commands their utter disappearance. The white-haired youth freezes in terror as the deadly threat closes in, but just then, Kieran charges forward, shielding his comrade from certain death. "Don't just stand there," the commander yells. "Pull yourself together. Now pull." Wielding his hydroblade, Kieran deflects the assault, and his final words echoing, "Survive." In that instant, the demon's overwhelming power utterly obliterates the commander's body. Our protagonist's eyes widen in horrifying disbelief. A desperate scream tears from his throat as he witnesses his battle companion's sacrifice. Even Kieran. Gone. He cannot believe it. Cannot believe. A chilling voice echoes in his mind. The one who saved him now blames him. "You are too weak," it sneers. "This is all your fault." Tears stream down our protagonist's face as despair renders him utterly speechless. Suddenly, he stands alone in a realm of pure, unsettling white. Confused, the white-haired young man spins, bewildered by this surreal space. A mysterious voice calls his name. He whirls around, startled, to find the very architect of his transformation seated directly before him. "Dimahua." The entity's words cut deep. "If you wish to save them all, you must surrender your very body." The being fixes him with an intense gaze, uttering his name, Ryuka, with chilling seriousness. It clarifies. "I speak of myself. You are Ryuka." "I don't understand," our protagonist shouts. "Who the hell are you?" The creature scoffs. "You're slow. You pretend not to grasp this reality." The entity then calms his racing thoughts, revealing they exist within the world of the mind. "Here," it explains, "time stands still. Outside, not a single moment will pass." He introduces himself as Akron, a being once sealed within the desolate north. A sinister smile spreads across his face. "They call me a celestial demon." Our protagonist gasps, repeating, "A celestial demon, Akron." The entity stretches lazily, promising to unravel the entire truth for him. The scene plunges into darkness, and a flashback to the distant past. Akron reveals that 15 years ago, a fragment of himself escaped its ancient seal. Ryuka, still reeling, questions if that tiny ball of energy was truly a demon. Akron confirms it. In that weakened state, it was powerless, desperate for a physical form. Its energy drifted towards a village, under siege by monstrous fiends. There, amidst the carnage, it discovered a woman on the brink of death. Without hesitation, the entity incarnated within her womb a desperate act of survival, and the child born from that woman was our very own protagonist. The white-haired young man's eyes blaze crimson. He cannot, will not, believe it. Akron mocks him mercilessly, exposing his lifelong delusion that he wasn't a monster. With a cruel smile, the entity declares, "You were always a monster, Ryuka. From the very beginning. Even before your birth," Akron adds, "you were a monster." Back in the realm of the mind, and a pulsating sphere of energy appears between them. Akron continues his tale, revealing that thanks to the Holy Grail, and he has finally reached this peak of power. Our protagonist reels in complete shock, overwhelmed by the entity's monstrous revelation. A sinister smile twists Akron's lips, exposing his true, malevolent intent. The scene snaps back to the moment our protagonist first awakened his power. His eyes betray pure confusion as a raw, destructive energy consumes him from within. Collapsed on the ground, he screams in agony, an overwhelming power raging through his body. "It hurts so much," he cries, and his throat burning relentlessly. Akron then sneers. "All this time, you worried about a pact." Our protagonist's face contorts in pure agony. The entity grabs the young man's face, declaring, This is the pact." Akron taunts, "What could you possibly offer when all you possess is your own body? I will lend you my power," Akron promises, "but in return, your spirit will burn when you can no longer endure. When your spirit is utterly depleted, I shall finally awaken and seize control of everything that exists." With a sinister smile, Akron adds, "Your body, young one, will finally be mine." Akron curses at our protagonist, swearing to finish him swiftly, for once he's gone, the true fun will begin. Akron intends to savor his newfound freedom. The entity urges the young man to surrender, promising that the flames will ease his pain. "Resist," it warns, "and you will burn forever, suffering without end." After all, the being explains, this is a realm beyond time, and the infernal energy relentlessly devours the white-haired youth's very soul. With a sinister smile, Akron whispers, "Slowly, very slowly, turn to ash." The pain is utterly unbearable, shredding his very being. Akron watches the agonizing scene, a look of absolute confidence on his face. His victory, he believes, is already entirely assured. Yet, despite the searing agony, our protagonist clenches his fist tightly. He will not surrender so easily to this malevolent entity. His defiance burns bright, a desperate spark against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the young man's aura detonates like a supernova. Akron freezes, his mind unable to process the overwhelming surge. The youth roars, his voice echoing with authority. He refuses to let the demon awaken any further within his soul. Burning with righteous fury, he declares that Akron will not have his way. Facing this defiance, the celestial entity growls in frustration. The mortal's spiritual pressure is far beyond calculation. A blinding explosion of energy swallows the entire mental realm. The intensity of our protagonist's willpower is breathtaking. The white-haired youth screams as raw power tears through his very being. The torrent of energy rampages through his meridians, scorching him without mercy. Akron stares in disbelief. What is wrong with this human? This level of mental resistance is defying the laws of the demonic arts. The entity bellows, demanding he surrender. Giving into the darkness would be so much easier than this agony. How does he still stand amidst the spiritual hellfire with eyes burning like stars? The young man replies that the demon understands nothing. He will never let this monster escape, no matter the cost. His expression hardens into unshakable steel. He prepares for the final clash. Despite the torture, the white-haired warrior refuses to kneel. His fighting spirit remains unbroken. Memories flood his mind. He recalls the vow he made to never watch the innocent suffer again. The faces of his fallen comrades flash before his eyes. That trauma became his fuel. He swore to transcend his limits to protect everyone. Even as his soul burns, he forces his body to move. Witnessing this impossible tenacity, Acheron screams, completely blindsided by the human's resolve. Music. The entity cannot comprehend it. How does this mortal still possess the strength to challenge a god? Seizing the moment, our protagonist charges straight at the celestial demon. His fist cuts through the air, aimed directly at the malevolent entity. Acheron is paralyzed with shock. He cannot fathom how the boy endures such excruciating pain. The demon screeches, baffled by this defiance. Impact. With a thunderous boom, the young man's fist smashes into the demon's skull. Acheron groans, staggering back but remaining on his feet. A sinister grin twists the entity's face as he warns the boy not to test his fate. The demon roars that the contract is sealed. He granted the power, and this meager resistance is not enough to defeat an ancient evil. But Acheron is taken aback by the white-haired youth's audacity. Our protagonist smirks, declaring that the power lent to him is merely a crumb. His eyes shine with a terrifying, predatory light. He does not just want resistance, he craves domination. Enraged, he screams, demanding the malevolent entity hand over everything. Acheron pauses, the word power echoing in the void. The demon is confused, but the young man confirms it. This tiny spark is not enough to kill a celestial demon. He needs the whole fire. He refuses to be a vessel. He declares he will fight as himself, and for that he requires absolute strength. Acheron snaps. The entity charges at the white-haired youth, but our protagonist simply extends his hand, ready to devour the demon's essence. Acheron grumbles in pure rage. His grand plan for possession has backfired spectacularly. With venomous hatred, he shouts for the boy to know his place, cursing him as despicable trash. Boom! A cataclysmic explosion of energy erupts as their souls collide in a battle for dominance. Meanwhile, back in reality, the warrior manifests, and Weebel looks down at her with a gaze full of boredom. The creature sighs, complaining that the entertainment is over. She calls Acheron a disappointment. Our protagonist lies motionless, hair veiling his face in apparent defeat. Weebel conjures a sphere of azure energy, scoffing at the scene. She declares the young man is simply too weak. With a sneer of contempt, she decrees that the weak deserve only extinction. She swings to finish him, but her arm is caught in an iron grip. She gasps in shock. She looks down to see our protagonist, but the aura around him has completely changed. A chilling smile plays on his lips. He apologizes for being an insect, while a terrifying power begins to coil around him. Weebel is confused. Who is this monster? Her eyes widen in pure horror. She cannot process the anomaly standing before her. Our protagonist replies calmly, he is indeed a human who has just swallowed a demon whole. The white-haired youth rises, revealing his new, transcendent form. Weebel is paralyzed by the suffocating pressure radiating from him. The creature's fear turns to a twisted grin. The thrill of battle reignites within her. She shouts that this is magnificent. She does not care about his identity anymore. The demoness charges straight at our evolved protagonist. Her fist, wrapped in destructive energy, flies toward the white-haired warrior. Clash. Her attack meets his, but he stops her absolute force with ease. Weebel groans, her mind reeling from the young man's overwhelming physical strength. Our protagonist's hand morphs, enveloped in a blazing blue aura of judgment. He counters a concentrated strike of devastation, slams directly into her. The pink-haired demon screams as the impact shatters her defenses. She cannot believe the reality unfolding before her eyes. Weebel falls to her knees in total defeat, glaring up at the white-haired reaper. Our protagonist looks down on her with eyes as cold as the abyss, but the demon's humiliation ignites a sinister, hateful smile. Suddenly, she launches a treacherous blast of energy, her voice dripping with malice as she asks if he has forgotten something. The creature instantly cloaks herself in a swirling sphere of hydropower, declaring that the ocean itself is her weapon. She shrieks that victory is impossible for him and unleashes a cataclysmic tidal wave of energy to drown him. However, our protagonist merely offers a mocking smirk at her arrogance. The overwhelming torrent simply splits and diverts around him like a harmless stream, leaving the creature stunned. With a face twisted in confusion, Weebel stammers, asking how he could possibly withstand her might. In response, the young man erupts with an explosion of azure flames, shaking the very air. His gaze is intense as he states that a flame hot enough can evaporate even the sea. Weebel is left trembling in shock, grumbling in denial at this revelation. Enraged, she screams, calling him trash, and charges straight at him with reckless fury. But the white-haired youth meets her charge, delivering a devastating blow that slams her violently into the earth. Battered and broken on the sidelines, Ryuka whispers our protagonist's name, unable to believe the sight before him. He senses a terrifying, transcendent power radiating from the young man's new form. Ryuka stares at the white-haired youth, wondering what kind of monster he has truly become. VOWS' physical form begins to crumble and disintegrate under the crushing weight of his spiritual pressure. She groans in agony, looking up at him with eyes burning with pure venom. Standing over the fallen creature, our protagonist stares back with absolute contempt. He spits the word weak, his voice mocking as he asks what happened to all her bravado. With a cruel smile, he taunts her for being brought to her knees by a mere human, asking if she's perhaps lower than an insect. VOWS' rage boils over. She roars, warning him not to get arrogant over a momentary advantage. She screams that playtime is officially over. Channeling her life force, she commands him to be crushed and manifests a colossal prison cube of water. The attack hits head-on. Our protagonist seems to buckle under the immense deep-sea pressure as the creature screams for him to perish. The water cube descends with full force, but suddenly, the young man is engulfed in his signature blue flames, declaring that she is the one who will meet her end. He announces that she is the one who will fade away, unleashing the full catastrophe of his firepower. The inferno surges, physically pushing the massive water cube upward. VOWS' eyes widen in horror, her mind refusing to process the impossible. The blue energy instantly vaporizes the water into steam, and he coldly announces that this battle is finished. Without a second of hesitation, he fires a final, concentrated beam of annihilation with all his might. The creature is caught in the vortex, screaming in agony as the overwhelming power atomizes her very being. Her body completely disintegrates within the explosion of energy. When the light fades, only dust remains, drifting through the ruins of the partially destroyed temple. Our protagonist powers down to his normal state, standing solitary amidst the wreckage. Suddenly, the warrior appears, her gaze stern as she calls him weak. The red-haired commander locks eyes with the young man, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. Tears streaming down his face, our protagonist cries out for Commander Arthur, apologizing brokenly that he failed to protect his comrades. Consumed by guilt, he screams that this tragedy only happened because he lacked the strength to stop it. The red-haired woman watches his grief in silence for a moment, but then a gentle, maternal smile softens her expression. She reaches out, ruffling his hair, and tells him that none of this was his burden to bear. The commander explains that everyone fought with the honor of knights, including him, and that he achieved a miracle no one in history has ever matched. The white-haired youth freezes, completely shocked and confused. She whispers that the time has finally come for him to prove his true existence. The young man stares into the glowing light, the commander general's words echoing in his soul. The warrior reveals that he is destined to become the sword that purges the invaders. The story then flashes back 15 years to the Order's headquarters. A young Kieran argues desperately, insisting that the boy is just an innocent baby, even though he was found in a village wiped out by a monster surge. The commander's voice is grave, as she explains that the desecration of the Northern Temple coincides exactly with the rise in monsters, and the surge only stopped the moment he discovered this child. Kieran falls speechless at the ominous facts but stands his ground to defend the infant's life. He declares he will take full responsibility. The woman reminds him of his vow of celibacy, but the knight makes a blood pact. Clutching the baby tight, he swears that if this child ever becomes a calamity, he will end the boy's life with his own hands. Back in the present, within the sterile walls of the 6th Division's infirmary, Ryuka lies in recovery. Our protagonist rushes in, asking Kieran if he is injured. With a relieved smile, the white-haired knight sighs, "Thank goodness you are safe." The commander turns her gaze upon the young man, her expression filled with a complex, caring warmth. But in the shadows of his mind, Kieran recalls the battle that boy. In his transformation, he didn't look human, he looked like a true, descending celestial demon. With a rare display of affection, the commander reached out and ruffled our protagonist's hair, leaving him completely stunned. A bright smile lit up Kieran's face as he thanked the white-haired youth for turning the tides of battle. Flustered by the sudden praise, the young man shyly asked about the others. Kieran reassured him that thanks to Jack's miraculous divine arts, every single life was saved. A heavy weight lifted from our protagonist's shoulders, but there was no time to rest. The knight conveyed a message Commander Arthur demanded their presence immediately. Following orders, they made their way toward the inner sanctum, the most opulent sector of the headquarters. Standing before the imposing double doors, Chiron announced their arrival. Our protagonist followed in silence, his heart pounding with nervous anticipation at the sudden summons. However, the moment they crossed the threshold, confusion washed over the white-haired youth. Reality seemed to warp around them. Standing dead center was Commander Arthur, gripping a blade that pulsed with an otherworldly light. A suffocating purple aura radiated from the weapon. The red-haired commander's eyes were sharp as steel, locked in deep, unwavering concentration. The atmosphere was heavy. She was clearly preparing to unleash something monumental. Just as quickly, the warrior dispelled the crushing pressure and apologized for the intimidation. Karen, eyeing the blade, noted that this wasn't her usual divine weapon. Indeed, this blade whispered of ancient times, far more ornate and mysterious than the massive greatsword she typically wielded on the battlefield. She revealed the weapon's true name, Khalid Fulch, a precious heirloom, the final memento left behind by her late brother. Arthur then gestured to a chair, commanding our protagonist to sit. Though hesitant and awkward, he dared not disobey a direct order. Suddenly, the white-haired youth whipped his head around, eyes widening in absolute shock. He never saw it coming, without a word of warning. The red-haired woman placed the pulsating blade directly onto his lap, paralyzing him with fear. Both our protagonist and Chiron stood frozen, their minds unable to process this bizarre turn of events. Disbelief hung in the air. With a solemn expression, the commander commanded the ancient steel to awaken from its slumber. The red gem embedded in the hilt split open, revealing a grotesque, living red eye staring back at them. In a flash, reality shattered. The young man was dragged into a void of pure white, stripped away from the physical world. Our protagonist spun around frantically, utterly lost in this empty dimension. Arthur materialized beside him, explaining that the sword possessed the power to breach the mind world. She had come for one reason, to greet the monster residing within him. And there he was, looming before them. The entity appeared bound in heavy spiritual chains, yet radiating a terrifying, majestic pressure. With a twisted grin, the demon mocked the boy for returning for another beating. Unfazed, the commander stepped forward, formally addressing Acheron, the celestial demon. Acheron's eyes narrowed. He sneered, noting that this red-haired woman bore a striking resemblance to a hated enemy from his past. The very human who had sealed him within that accursed temple was none other than the founder of her order. Hearing this, the warrior simply bowed, claiming the comparison was an honor. Our protagonist panicked, begging the demon not to attack, while the entity scoffed at their theatrics. Arthur cut him off cold. She reminded the beast that his arrogance was meaningless. He was nothing more than a prisoner, bound by the unbreakable chains of the pact. The tables had turned. Acheron roared in fury, but Arthur remained calm, pointing out that in this realm, he was merely a spiritual projection without true agency. The entity's eye burned with abyssal hatred, his pride refusing to accept such humiliation from a mere human. Our protagonist stood bewildered, unable to grasp the depths of their conversation. The commander clarified the Acheron before them was only a fragment originating from the northern temple. A sinister smile crept across the entity's face as he confirmed her deduction was spot on. He boasted arrogantly that if he were reunited with his original physical body, his power would dwarf the heavens themselves. Hearing this, our protagonist's gaze hardened into a glare. Arthur dropped the bombshell. That is exactly why your true body is currently in grave danger. For the first time, the demon looked genuinely rattled. The warrior explained that the rogue mage knew the demon's soul was inside Ruka. Realization struck the young man like lightning as he recalled a crucial memory. The commander revealed the terrifying truth. Their bond wasn't a simple contract. The boy had essentially become a living extension of the demon's body. She continued, grimly stating that the mage possessed the dark arts to resurrect demons or twist humans into abominations. If that sorcerer managed to claim the demon's physical vessel, the resulting catastrophe would be beyond imagination. Acheron exploded with chaotic rage, refusing to let a lowly mage steal his glory. Our protagonist shouted back, challenging the demon to leave if he had such a problem with his current host. The entity spewed curses, lamenting that he should have obliterated the boy the moment they met. Arthur seized the moment. Since neither wanted the body stolen, their interests aligned. With a confident smile, she extended her hand, proposing an unprecedented alliance. The commander's hand reached out, hovering before the chained calamity. Our protagonist gasped, certain the monster would refuse, but Acheron surprised them all, his voice dripping with malice. Fine. However, he snarled, I have my own conditions. I will not be ordered around like a dog. With a sadistic grin, he laid out his terms. They would force our protagonist through hellish training to become a worthy vessel. Arthur agreed instantly after all. They desperately needed the power-up. A sinister smirk curls the entity's lips, for he is more than pleased with this devil's bargain. Mockery drips from his voice as he taunts the young man. The white-haired youth roars in fury at the thought of obeying him, but the demon's eyes narrow, sharp as daggers, assessing the boy's defiance. Suddenly, a terrifying purple aura erupts. It swallows our protagonist whole, yet his gaze remains unbroken and fierce. I will become stronger, he screams into the void. I refuse to let anyone else bleed for me. Atron's smile widens. Simply excellent, he purrs. Snap, with overwhelming force. Atron shatters his ethereal chains. He seizes the young man in a vice-like grip, vowing to forge him into the perfect vessel. There is no escape from his grasp now. He leans in, whispering a promise to make him stronger than any being under the heavens. The malevolent purple energy surges, engulfing them both in a storm of raw, unbridled power. From the shadows, Chiron witnesses the transformation, dread written across his face. Are you concerned? Arthur asks. The knight doesn't hesitate to nod. Hold your tongue, the commander warns. Meanwhile, our protagonist's roar of frustration echoes through the hall. Arthur makes her decree. We move to the northern temple, she declares, to the resting place of the demon, Atronum. The scene shifts to the suffocating darkness of that temple. A sealed coffin lies in wait. Within it, the celestial demon's true body sleeps, waiting for the war to begin. Back in the 6th Division strategy room, the commander lays out the board for their next move. The crimson-haired commander announces, Chiron, Ryuka, you will travel north with me. Bridget raises a concern about the demon's corpse, but Arthur cuts her off. The monsters will grow unstable. Chiron asks for transport, but Arthur shakes her head. We travel by land to remain invisible. Kenneth stands in stoic silence, but his eyes betray his heavy heart. He clearly despises this plan. He steps forward, offering his blade for the mission, but Chiron intervenes. Return to headquarters. Vice Commander Fran needs you. Bound by duty, Kenneth bows in acceptance, while our protagonist watches the exchange in silence. A faint, knowing smile touches the MC's lips. Are you worried about me, Kenneth? Of course, the Vice Commander admits. You are facing a celestial demon. It would be madness not to worry. Hearing this, the white-haired youth looks at his comrade with new eyes. But Arthur interrupts the moment to address the elephant in the room, Atron's training. The land route is slow, she explains. Every second counts. We depart immediately. She turns to the entity. Will you permit his training to continue during the march? Atron scoffs, indifferent. Do as you please, as long as the brat becomes a useful weapon for me. Arthur turns her sharp gaze to the protagonist. Do you accept these terms? Eyes burning with resolve. The white-haired youth nods. I accept. Music. The where and the how are irrelevant now. Desperation fuels him. He must obtain absolute power, no matter the cost. He must master Atron's chaotic energy. It is the only way to protect everything he holds dear. Kenneth meets his gaze. In that silence, he understands his teammate's unbreakable will. Alert the other temples, Arthur commands. Chiron frowns. Won't the mage head north first? No, the commander replies ominously. A chill runs down her spine. She has a bad feeling about this. It's all because of Tempest. That mage was supposed to be a ghost, missing for years, yet he's been pulling strings from the deepest shadows all along. Why reveal himself now? The red-haired woman wonders. A vision flashes in her mind, the mage, floating before a blood-red moon. Karen in the knight's turn, faces pale with shock. Arthur's voice is grave. That is exactly what I fear. For even in the most peaceful village, the darkest nightmares can lie in wait. Meanwhile, the mage sits in his lair, contemplating his enemies. Thud. Without warning, his wooden hand detaches and hits the floor. He fumbles to reattach the limb. Blast it, he grumbles. It refuses to bond. Hold still. His assistant scolds, clicking the hand back into place. He sighs deeply. I suppose I was defeated fair and square. Old bones take time to knit, he wheezes. That commander, she fights like a beast. Master. the little girl whispers. He forces a pained smile, eyes closing. The toll of the battle still weighs heavy on his soul. Suddenly, space warps two new mages, Ethan and Ava, materialize. Ethan is seething. Tempest, you've made a catastrophic mess. The white-haired mage simply waves. It has been a long time. Ethan growls, disgusted by his nonchalance. Fury explodes. He charges forward, mana flaring for a strike. Crash. His fist obliterates the table instantly. The little girl watches, eyes wide. Wow. Tempest, however, looks devastated. My favorite table, he mourns, ruined. The Western Celestial Demon is gone because of you, Ethan roars. You have lived past your expiration date, old man. Tempest shrugs off the threat. Perhaps my little maneuver accelerated things, he muses, but I merely wished to wake him up ahead of schedule. Ethan's frustration boiled over, but his partner intervened, assuring him that their efforts were far from wasted. Ava stepped from the shadows, her pink eyes glowing with a deranged bloodlust as she revealed her prize. She produced a jar containing a grotesque green trophy, the Eye of Lord Bay. It snapped open, radiating a terrifying aura that froze the air in the room. Tempest chuckled darkly, noting that waking the entity had its merits, though the mage scoffed at his absurdity. A twisted grin spread across his face as he prepared to drop a bombshell. Ethan's expression darkened. He was in no mood for games. With the air thick with tension, Tempest unveiled the next phase of his catastrophic master plan. The Northern Celestial Demon has been revived, he declared, and its vessel remains. The revelation struck Ethan and Ava like a thunderclap. The white-haired mage added that breaking the ancient seals had been their goal for centuries. Tempest sneered at his colleague's time in captivity, provoking a sharp, angry rebuke from Ethan. But Ethan's eyes suddenly hardened with resolve. This was their golden chance to summon the outer god into this dimension. Ava licked her lips in anticipation, announcing her departure for the south to indulge in some slaughter. She vowed to awaken the southern celestial demon. Ethan took command, ordering Tempest to the north while he claimed the east. The white-haired mage scoffed at being ordered around, but his superior's tone left no room for argument. Emerald energy exploded from Ethan as he unleashed his power. Gather every vessel in the north, he roared. Ava beamed with ecstasy. Her darkest desires were finally within her grasp. Tempest agreed, his own ambition burning bright. At the hands of the demon god, the world would be unmade and forged anew. The pact was sealed as the mage confirmed the strategy with his twisted little assistant. A chilling smile played on his lips. Everything was proceeding exactly according to his script. But to counter this rising darkness, the Order of Knights mobilized for war. Commander Arthur stood before her troops, demanding immediate deployment. Hours later, the expeditionary force marched toward the northern temple to intercept the threat. The journey was grueling. The protagonists realized just how far they had come as they fended off waves of bizarre beasts. Before them stood a forest swallowed by shadows. The young knight looked ahead, questioning the distance to their goal. Kieran checked the map. The target lies just beyond this tree line, he explained. However, the commander's voice turned grave. This was no ordinary forest. It was a festering breeding ground for demons. A cold sweat ran down the protagonist's back as he gazed into the abyss of the woods. Kieran suggested a detour, but Arthur cut him off instantly. We marched straight through the heart of it. A confident smirk tugged at her lips. After all, slaughtering monsters is what we do best. With a groan, the knight signaled the protagonist to follow. There was no turning back as they plunged into the suffocating darkness. A chilling rustle cut through the silence. The protagonist gripped his weapon, his senses screaming that they were not alone. The killing intent was overwhelming. It reminded him of the brutal trials he had fought so hard to survive. "Move out," Arthur barked. The two rookies scrambled to keep pace with the red-haired war goddess. They moved with supernatural agility, leaping through the canopy like shadows. The commander began her grim tally. 1. A monster burst into gore. 2. Another fell before it even saw her. Her twin blades were a whirlwind of death, dissecting enemies with surgical precision. "She's a monster," the protagonist gasped. Shocked by her velocity, Kieran gritted his teeth, unable to even land a single blow. Her speed existed in a completely different realm. Arthur continued her slaughter, the body count rising with every step. She hadn't even broken a sweat. Suddenly, she stopped, annoyance flashing in her eyes. "This isn't enough." she muttered. Her expression soured. The prey here was too weak to satisfy her blade. Without a word, the red-haired warrior vanished deeper into the woods, hunting for a worthy challenge. She skidded to a halt, her aura flaring as she stared down the darkness. She was baiting something. Demon-level threats possess intelligence, she explained coldly. They know when a predator has arrived, so they hide. In an instant, a blade was hurled with devastating force into the shadows. The commander surged forward. Her weapon impaled a massive abomination hiding in the dark, eliciting a horrific scream of pain. With the beast silenced, the commander calmly adjusted her glove, looking bored. The two young knights were gasping for air behind her. That had to be the area boss. The blue-haired knight wheezed. Arthur confirms the perimeter is secure, her voice cutting through the tension. The red-haired commander immediately orders the squad to move out. Our protagonist stares at her, his face a mask of absolute exhaustion. Beside him, the white-haired young man is left speechless by the chaos they just survived. His mind struggles to process the commander's godlike speed. The scene shifts as darkness falls, and the weary party gathers around a crackling campfire. The popping of burning wood is the only sound in the silent forest. Over the flames, skewers of fish roast slowly, their skin turning a delicious golden brown. The savory aroma hangs heavy in the air, a blessing after such a brutal day. Chiron grabs a skewer and hands it to our starving protagonist. The young man accepts the meal with deep gratitude, thankful for his comrade's kindness. Suddenly, the protagonist calls out to Arthur, asking why she refuses to join the meal. The commander stands aloof, leaning against a tree with her arms crossed, watching them like a sentinel. A calm, mysterious smile plays on her lips as the red-haired woman replies that she is fine. Hearing this, the white-haired young man tilts his head, utterly confused by the situation. Karen notices the rookie's bewilderment and shoots him a look of deadly seriousness. As he bites into the fish, a realization strikes him. He has seen Arthur in the dining hall, but he has never actually witnessed the commander consume a single bite of food. The warrior catches his gaze and confirms his suspicions. She has no need for food, but she does need to train him. The protagonist chokes, awkwardly promising to eat fast to begin training. The red-haired woman shakes her head cold-heartedly. She wants to save time and energy right now. Mana explodes from her blade. The young man's eyes glow with a purple aura as the commander points her sword directly at his throat, leaving him paralyzed with shock. With a terrifyingly cheerful smile, she declares that the training begins immediately in the spiritual realm. The young man screams as reality warps around him. He is pulled into the void, finding himself back in that otherworldly dimension, with the demon Atron kneeling before them. The commander's eyes shine with excitement as she announces that his hell training starts now. She turns to the demon and demands a favor. The warrior asks the entity to reshape this void into the image of his homeland. A sinister grin splits the entity's face as he lets out a mocking laugh. Instantly, the world twists into a nightmare of jagged rocks and flowing lava. The ground shatters beneath them. Our protagonist screams in terror at the sudden, violent transformation, trembling. The white-haired young man wonders if this hellscape is the world where the demon Akron was born. Arthur explains the mission to unlock his maximum potential. He must synchronize his soul with the demon. The protagonist repeats the word synchronize, his voice trembling. He is completely lost. Chiron steps in to explain the lore. If the legends are true, every demon possesses a specific elemental nature. He reminds them of the last celestial demon, a creature of water, and reveals that Atron is a calamity of pure fire. The commander confirms it. The inferno around them is his power source, so the heat should not burn him. Despite her reassurance, the white-haired young man eyes the bubbling magma with deep suspicion. Atron roars, ordering him to stop his pathetic whining immediately. The entity sneers that mental preparation is for the weak. With a wicked smile, the demon snaps his fingers and commands the onslaught to begin. A tsunami of fire rushes forward. Our protagonist braces for impact as 4 blazing spheres lock onto him, leaving the young man frozen in shock. Boom! The explosion blasts him backward with devastating force, a groan of pain escaping his lips. He skids dangerously close to the edge, barely catching himself before falling into the lava. The sound of magma bubbling inches from his ear sends a shiver down his spine. Arthur stares down at him with intensity. Do you want to get stronger? The commander orders him to claim this destruction as his own power. Her expression turns grave as the red-haired woman commands him to absorb every ounce of the flame. Atron grins like a devil and snaps his fingers again. Another wave of annihilation charges forward, and the white-haired young man steels himself to endure the pain. The fire spheres surround him once more, but this time, he faces the threat with burning determination in his eyes. The blast hits, he groans in agony, but he refuses to fly back. He withstands the impact. Gritting his teeth, he fights through the searing heat, forcing the energy to become his strength. His face twists in sheer exertion. He screams that his lungs are burning. Atron taunts him, asking if he gave up on making the fire his ally, but the young man roars back that this is nothing. But there is no respite. A new sphere of concentrated fire rockets toward our protagonist. The explosion strikes him head on. The force is overwhelming, hurling him through the air like a rag doll. He is engulfed in a pillar of flame. He screams as the heat scorches his skin, his eyes widening in pure desperation as the burning sensation refuses to fade. He crashes to the ground, utterly drained, with zero strength left to lift a finger. Gasping for air, our protagonist realizes he was nearly cooked alive. He turns his gaze to the three figures watching him from the distance, their faces void of pity. With a cruel smile, Commander Arthur simply gives the order, again. The white-haired young man growls in frustration and rage. And so, the nightmare continues as he is swallowed by yet another overwhelming explosion of fire. An agonized scream tears through the air as the inferno swallows him whole, burning through his very soul. Collapsed against the scorched earth, our protagonist gasps for breath, his stamina utterly depleted as he stares at the cracked ground. He realizes his fatal mistake. He tried to fight the fire instead of commanding it. The hellish training within the volcano's heart continues without mercy. Karen finally calls for a halt, warning that even a spiritual form has its breaking point and cannot endure more. Commander Arthur nods in agreement, sensing the limit, but a dark presence nearby refuses to show mercy. Acheron seethes with rage. He roars at the young man, demanding he rise and stop displaying such pathetic weakness in the face of power. The entity summons a colossal sphere of annihilation, the flames roaring with overwhelming power. Death approaches in the form of a blazing sun, hurtling straight toward our fallen hero who can only watch in horror. Karen screams in fury, declaring the strike to be absolute madness and overkill, but the commander remains unshakable. The explosion engulfs the boy, striking him head on with the force of a meteor. He clenches his eyes shut, bracing his soul against the searing agony tearing through him. Arthur simply whispers, "Is that all?" as she effortlessly hoists him onto her back amidst the raging inferno. Blade drawn, the commander prepares to defy logic. She unleashes a circular wave of aura that cuts through the very world itself. The white-haired youth stares in total disbelief. She is protecting him while unleashing godlike power in the center of hell. This is the peak of martial arts. The commander exists in a realm of power he cannot even comprehend yet. But as he lands, shame washes over him. He realizes with bitterness that he should be the one wielding that strength, not being a burden. The red-haired commander turns, her sharp eyes instantly piercing through his facade to see the despair beneath. Her expression softens into a warm smile. She praises his endurance, apologizing for the brutality of the trial. Our protagonist hangs his head, confessing his own uselessness. He yearns for strength, but feels like nothing more than an anchor dragging them down. In his mind, he wonders, with a monster like the commander here, what purpose does a weakling like him serve? "That is where you are wrong," she declares. Startling him, she sits beside him, her aura calming as she assures him that breaking his spirit was never her goal. Since they are isolated within this barrier, the warrior decides the time has come to share a truth she keeps hidden from the world. Leaning in close, she whispers that she will reveal her greatest secret. In the distance, Acheron and Chiron watch, puzzled by the sudden intimacy. Karen tilts his head, echoing the word secret with intense curiosity. Stunned into silence, our protagonist finally finds his voice and asks what truth she has been guarding so closely. Her mind drifts back to the sacred ceremonial chamber, to the moment she swore the oath to discard her very gender for the sake of the sword. She confesses the vow of gender renunciation. Chiron gasps in shock, knowing full well she is bound by far more than just a single oath. The warrior reveals the impossible reality. While a knight typically bears one vow, she was granted the burden of 10. The revelation strikes our protagonist like a thunderbolt. Even Chiron screams in disbelief at the number 10, but she explains calmly that these vows are the very fuel for her transcendent might. Finally, the white-haired youth comprehends the monstrous source of her invincible strength. Karen grabs him in a panic, shrieking that he has just heard a state secret that could get them killed. But the commander continues. A vow is a chain, a weakness. Because she is bound by 10 chains, she must raise a knight capable of fighting when she cannot. She speaks his name with solemn weight. Her eyes burn with determination as she declares that he is her hope, the one who must fill that void. A radiant smile breaks across her face as she tells him this is the reason he must surpass all limits. The young man's eyes widen as the weight of her trust settles in, and a confident grin slowly forms on his lips. "Yes, ma'am," he shouts, accepting his destiny. Chiron worries about the demon Akron hearing them, but the commander dismisses it. He will learn the truth in due time. With that settled, the red-haired commander calls an end to the brutal session. The path to power continues at dawn. Returning to reality, the commander gazes into the abyss of the night, her mind heavy with the burden she carries. Nearby, our protagonist has collapsed into a deep slumber, his body recovering from the hellish ordeal. Watching him sleep, the red-haired commander's face softens into a look of gentle pride. Suddenly, a twig snaps. Her murderous intent flares instantly. From the shadows of the forest, a pair of glowing blue eyes emerges. It is the mage's assistant. The warrior lowers her guard slightly, recognizing the girl who stood by Tempest's side. She questions why the girl's here and not with the recovering mage. The girl replies cold and sharp she has come alone. The child's gaze hardens, the air growing heavy around her as she prepares to deliver a message that could change everything. A terrified aura explodes from the girl as she unleashes a blinding purple radiance. The red-haired commander reels in shock at this overwhelming pressure, but as a veteran warrior, she wastes no time summoning her own energy for battle. But something is wrong. Arthur's eyes widen in disbelief as her divine arts refuse to answer her call. The little girl smirks, claiming this was all within her calculations. A massive, intricate magic circle materializes beneath her feet. Violet chains of binding energy erupt from the formation. Before Commander Arthur can even twitch, she is completely ensnared by the arcane construct. The girl's voice turns cold as she recites the clues. Ethan said the commander never eats, and even in the biting frost, she never seeks warmth. She recalls how this warrior never sleeps, never rests, and offers prayers to no god. All these secrets were passed down to her by one man, Ethan Amlet, a living legend who walked this earth before the Tempest era and the very first of the forbidden mages. Realizing this, the girl understands she stands amongst titans of magic. She whispers a chilling truth: the commander is never truly alone. And that applies to her enemies as well. Her teachers warned her that therein lies both her greatest strength and her fatal weakness. Arthur forces a smile, admitting the embarrassment of being read so easily. Yet she demands to know why has her power been sealed despite the enemy standing right before her. The girl explains the laws of her magic. Her arts bind living souls, humans, monsters, even the demons of the abyss. The realization strikes Arthur like a physical blow. Her expression crumbles into utter shock. The girl delivers the final verdict. She confirms that the entity before her possesses no life force whatsoever. The illusion shatters. Her eye reveals the turning gears within. Commander Arthur is not human, but a sophisticated mechanical doll. A puppet's body is nothing but a cold cage for a soul. Enraged, Arthur strains against her bonds, but the suppression is absolute. The little mage issues a dark warning. Do not dare obstruct her master's path ever again. Overwhelmed by the binding spell, the proud commander is forced to her knees, frozen in place. The girl mocks her, believing the warrior has accepted defeat. But a fierce light still burns within Arthur's remaining eye. She growls low in her throat, warning the child not to underestimate the depths of her resolve. With a savage grin, she declares her persistence rivals that of a demon king, roaring with effort. Arthur forces her aura outward to shatter the magical restraints. Music. The shockwave is devastating. The little girl screams in terror as she's blasted backward by the sheer force of the explosion. Dust clears, and she stares in horror. How does this warrior possess such monstrous strength after everything? Stealing her resolve, the girl invokes the Sleeping King incantation. The mystic chains tighten instantly, crushing the commander's resistance. Teeth gritted to the breaking point, Arthur wages a desperate war against the overwhelming pressure. She refuses to yield. In her fading consciousness, an image appears: the white-haired youth sleeping by the fire. A gentle smile graces her lips. She leaves everything in the hands of that young man. The chains constrict, collapsing into a dense, purple sphere of sealing energy. It pulses ominously, the only light in the dead silence of the forest. The little girl approaches the seal and whispers the command word, Pito. Unhinging her jaw, she prepares to consume the concentrated mana. In a bizarre twist, absorbing the energy triggers a transformation. She morphs into a rotund, purple creature. The deed is done. Exhausted, she collapses to the earth, letting out a massive burp of satisfied mana. Silence returns to the forest, leaving her alone and drained. But suddenly, a terrifying bloodlust pierces the air. She spins around in panic. Inside, the protagonist has arrived, and his face is a mask of pure hatred and terrifying concern.